because you look at the team's not good. So he gets the free garbage time points, which is good.
Yeah.
But that team could also go 2-14 to where we're going to have a guy that's, 16th in the league not have a job next year because they're going to have one of the rookie quarterbacks.
Yeah, but I mean, he's still going to be, if they would go 2-14, you have to think that he's going to get like you said, the garbage points. Anyway, so we're live. We'll see when people start tuning in here. But this show is going to be very different. If you're watching back on YouTube, obviously we didn't have our intro. This is going to be a very informal, casual. We both came prepared with some beverages, and we're just running through our projections. Yeah. So you can see that on the screen, we are sharing the templates that we're going to be running through. So if you're in the chat, I want you to drop in when we get through. We're going through every team, right, Mitch?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. As long as you can stay up that late. It's only 7 o'clock here, dude.
I know. Initially, I said, all right, let's do an hour here. Let's pick 3 teams. And Mitch, you said we're doing every team.
I want them done.
Yeah, I know. So if you're in the chat, if you see something on the screen, and let me know if you can read this. I know it's going to be tough on the phone. But right now, this is the rankings that were spit out based on the projections. This wasn't, okay, we want Kyler Murray to be quarterback 9. How can we get him there? It was all based on the inputs that you're going to see as we go through here. But Mitch, you really wanted to kick off the projections to start with.
I did? Yeah, of course, dude. Like projections. So when we first got into this last year, we were like, just basing it off what everybody else was saying what the projections were. And we felt that it would be very important for us to have our own projections moving forward. Actually, it's helped out a ton. I got to tell you, I've had to change up my tier list immensely based off this. I mean, there's projections that I personally don't agree with, but we use the same process for everybody. So I just have to apply it the same way throughout. And if that means I need to change up my tiers because of it, that's what I'm going to do.
And that was the thing too. I think by going through these, it allowed us to be more objective as opposed to saying, okay, just like I said with Kyler Murray, we need him to be here. This is where I think he's going to be. But then when you go through the projections, it's like, no. And I think the perfect example, and we have a comment here that it was too faded. I enlarged it. Hopefully that helped a little bit for the people that are watching live. And we're going to be verbalizing and talking about all of this. So, maybe seeing the names isn't necessarily critical, but I can make the font larger if necessary. I can zoom in a little bit. But one guy that we really were high on for dynasty purposes, and I have to scroll a little bit here in the quarterback ranking, Sam Darnold.
I knew you were going to go to him.
Yeah, quarterback 25. Now, a little bit of touchdown variance, and we're going to talk about that throughout tonight's show, but that could really move people a few spots here or there, and obviously touchdowns being not as predictable. But going through, so just to give you a little bit of a backstory here, this is the overall template that we put together. Now, anything in red, essentially it is calculated based off of the inputs that we're going to use. So completion percentage, passing attempts, yards per attempt, so on and so forth. But then, like Mitch said, we use the same process. And Bill, I see you're in the chat. Can you let us know if you can read this at all? If you're on a laptop, I can make this larger if necessary.
It's probably going to be hard to see that main screen because it's hard even on my big monitor. That's a little bit better.
Yeah, I went up to 200%. So we'll scroll a little bit. Yeah. But one thing that I did, and this is, Mitch, you know how much time I put in here. I went through, and what you're seeing, it keeps adjusting.
You can't see it. Yeah, you can't see that.
Yeah, it keeps adjusting. And if you're tuning in for the first time, if you have not watched the Dynasty Theory show, this is nothing like our typical show. Just so you know, this is going to be sloppy, like
extremely. This is our drinking and finishing up the projections. We just decided to stream it this time.
Basically, so people could see our process, because it's so tough and so frustrating on Twitter when you're going through things and you have 100 or 200 some characters. I don't even know. But so this sheet right here, I created basically like a 95% confidence interval, and there's a lot of asterisks associated with it. And what I did, I went through all of the coaching history. Definitely can see the Zoom version. Thanks, Bill. We appreciate it. We went through all of the, sorry, Mitch. I went through all of the coaching history. I went through all of the quarterback history and tendencies. And I looked at the running back target share as a position, broke it down into running back one, running back two, same for wide receiver, same for tight end. And then looking at the quarterbacks, okay, who targeted certain position groups, who really drilled into the wide receiver one, who spread it out a little bit more. And you can see, like, for example, the Cleveland Browns, there really isn't good information just because Kevin Stefanski, first-time head coach, not much offensive coordinator history. And then, like, for this spreadsheet, Carolina Panthers aren't even in there. Matt Rule, Joe Brady, there is no history there. And I wasn't going to dive into college history because I didn't think it was going to translate 100%. But then for a lot of these, there are broader ranges based on the sample size. And if they had a larger history, the sample size was reduced because we could be more confident that it's going to fall in a certain range. So enough of the nerd talk there with the confidence intervals. I think, Mitch, you tuned out that whole part.
Oh, yeah. I don't understand in the first place. I just know that the graphs you made look really pretty, and it makes it a lot easier to see when we get to the actual sheets.
Right. Okay. So we're going to dive right into it. And again, I'm going to make this as a little bit larger. There we go.
Yeah. That's
if anything stands out to anybody, or if you're looking at it and you're like, Mitch, John, what the hell are you doing here? And this isn't going on the podcast feed. So I'm going to probably curse a little bit here, especially as the Trulies kick in. And Dan's not here to yell at me, so I can do that. Yeah. But the teams that we're really going to be looking at are the teams with big changes. I mean, New England, we're basically going to start fresh. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be an interesting one. Obviously Kansas City, we had the splits between Clyde Edwards.
I'm excited to see how high we get Clyde, because Clyde he's already kind of in there. He could end up smashing these projections, to be honest, with how we do it.
Right. Okay. So looking at Arizona, Mitch, anything, and we've thought about this a little bit, is there anything that jumps off the page that you think, okay, maybe we have to adjust? Because I've had really good conversations with people about certain players, and one of the teams is going to be the Jets, where I think maybe we have to tweak some things. But is there anything here, looking at, and one thing I did, and I wish that I could do the full screen and it would be easy to see, but we have it split up, the total plays that we think are going to take place. And this is based on a lot of things. It's based on coaching history. It's based on strength of schedule. It's based on caliber of their defense, game script. So there's a lot of things that went into this. It wasn't just an arbitrary 1,000 plays. But I think at times we did round a little bit just to try to get a somewhat even number. But then we have all kinds of checks in place. And you'll see that we didn't want to go into the 7th wide receiver on the depth chart. It doesn't matter. So we have an other category. And then what I did, Mitch, now that we're talking about it, I feel like I did a lot more here than you did.
You say that you did, but I know I put all the names in, and that took so long. And then we ended up deleting half the names because they end up not being fantasy relevant. They go in the others category that's listed right there.
Right. So what we did,
that took a while.
And yeah, you can see here in column B through E, we went through the 2020 targets and receptions for the quarterback, and the check is the targets that are received. So 83% of the targets are accounted for on the players that we made projections, 87% of the receptions, and then we did the same for passing yards, passing touchdowns, and rushing market share. And to make sure we weren't absolutely crazy, for a team, if we had 2 running backs projected out, I made sure that their market share was at least remotely close to what it was last year. If there's no head coaching change, obviously, if there's a personnel change or players being traded, free agent acquisitions. But what we did, so you can see here, 2020, 94% of the rushing attempts, the market share is accounted for in the projections. That's not falling in the other category. In 2019, 93% for that same amount of players was accounted for. We did the same for rushing touchdowns, rushing yards, and then right there, the big pie chart, it's the primary position target share that's accounted for. So in our projections, 58% of the total 100% targets are accounted for the wide receivers, 8% tight ends, 17% for running backs. And then that is going to add up to this, where is it? 83%. Again, so when you guys are looking at this, it's not, again, what are you doing here? Where do these numbers come from? So now that backstory is in place.
And with that also makes everything very conservative. So when we're going through this, we aren't saying we could see Dan Arnold getting 70 targets this year because he's going to be the guy on the field. So this is checking what we think into making sure that that's actually conceivable, comparing it to last year.
That's a really good point. That's a conversation I had with somebody, and they said, well, somebody else was having a conversation on Twitter, and you know how I am, Mitch. I kind of just jumped in.
I know the one you're talking about, I think.
Yeah, and it was nothing. It was a good conversation. It was nothing rude or anything. But I said that in our projections, we are not projecting based on ceiling. It's projections are essentially, it's the probability of outcomes. And what do we see as being the most probable? And you asked me about this, Mitch, and I think we're going to do it next year. And man, it's going to take even more time. But doing a range.
Yep, that's what I want.
Yeah. And you sprung that on me last second. I'm like, we can't do that this year.
Right, yeah.
But, for example, DeAndre Hopkins, we're going to put together a range based on probability, the likelihood of outcomes, injury. We'll try to find a way to assign injury probability there. But DeAndre Hopkins, minimum threshold 115 targets, but he could go up to 160.
Right.
But in this situation, we saw 127 as a very likely outcome. And the people that are watching live, before you jump in the chat and chastise us, I know 127 sounds low, but again, let us explain it. Let us get into it. And then I advise everybody, it's going to make this so much more fun if you can be interactive in the chat and crack open a drink if you're able to. Yeah, maybe a few. I have my Trulies here. They're all lined up. But Mitch, looking here, let's start with Kyler Murray. And I asked you to have Pro Football Reference up.
Yep.
Can you just pull up Kyler Murray? And then, again, we just want to making sure everything kind of falls in line. And again, I know there might be some people in the chat or watching live right now or watching on YouTube. Again, just to reiterate, this is not how our typical shows go. There's usually a little more structure. So if you're tuning in for the first time and you're like, what the hell are these guys talking about?
Yeah, there's going to be 32 versions of this coming up here. So,
yeah.
But no, as far as Kyler Murray, everything kind of lines up. If you just based off last year to where he had 16 games, we think this offense is going to be better than it was last year. They're going to have more snaps.
Here, what were his, so on Pro Football Reference, what was his completion percentage and then the total Arizona passing attempts?
So he had 64.4, and I think he had every single pass attempt, so it's 542. So we bumped it up by 30, and they gave him higher completion. Makes sense. He's progressing in his year. And then we have yards per attempt going up as well. He was at, no, it's right where it was, 6.9, and we have him at 6.9 right there. Okay,
so a quick explanation. So the completion percentage, obviously you don't need us to tell you they added DeAndre Hopkins during the offseason. That is going to help. And just a year of growth, a year being in Cliff Kingsbury's offense, I think that's going to help. And the pass attempts, Mitch, last season, you talked a ton about pace of play. And at least for a good stretch, I think there was a split as the season progressed. They kind of dropped down, but their pace of play was extremely fast. But if you look at their total plays, it really wasn't that high compared to the rest of the league. And it's because they weren't accumulating first downs.
It's because the offense wasn't very good.
No. So we're talking about the passing attempts. That is the reasoning. And basically this whole show, and we might be on here for 5 hours. I don't know.
No, but I really think I'll go to bed till midnight. You're screwed, but I'll be okay.
Nah, tomorrow's Friday. It's fine. Right. The only thing I might have to take a restroom break and then get a few more Trulies at some point. But
not allowed. Basically,
through all of these teams, I want to give rationale because I want to be able to say this is why we did what we did. And we're not just pulling it out of my ass. Oh, 67%. That sounds good. So yards per attempt, we see it pretty similar to last year. If you look at DeAndre Hopkins, and I know you can't take everything from one team to the next, but his yards per reception, when you think about it and look at the overall NFL, it really isn't that high. So I think that's one reason that we didn't really bump that up. Touchdown percentage, Mitch, what was it last year?
Yeah, 3.7.
So we have a little bit of, it's higher, but again, yards per attempt, touchdown percentage, they almost go hand in hand to an extent. I would like to see the correlation. I have not put that together, but if I have some time, my wife always loves whenever I say, "Oh, I have to do a quick fantasy project," and that project takes up like 10 hours. So touchdown percentage, 4%. For him, the average depth of target, it was pretty minimal. I don't have that information off, in front of me, but 4% touchdown percentage, I think that's reasonable. For interception percentage, now this is rounded, but we have it at 2.5. It's showing us 3 on the screen.
2.2 last year. Makes sense. He's going to pass more this year, should run faster. So that should mean he should throw a couple more interceptions with that.
And also the reason that I think, so now he has a receiver that he can really target. And typically when we see a younger quarterback target a receiver quite frequently, there might be some forces in there. And that's kind of the reason. Mitch, can you do me a favor? Can you pull up DeAndre Hopkins on Pro Football Reference? Bill here says last season Nook. I think Nook, right? I think it's pronounced Nook.
Yeah, it's Nook, like the binky Nook.
Like the pacifier, yeah.
I didn't know that until people yelled at me when we started the podcast last year.
I say names wrong all the time. I don't care. But I'm still going to call him Nuke. I don't care. So Nuke's yards per reception dropped a fair amount. Yeah, can you just see what it was like 19, 18, 17 when you compare the 3 years?
Real quick. Yards per reception, it did drop. So it was 15, 15, 13, 12, 14, 13, down to 11.
Okay. So, but
he averages 13.6. So we even have it, a full yard below that on this, which I think, and that's the thing. We're just trying to make it fair. We're not trying to make these be exact. We're trying to make it more than likely, what's he going to hit? I think 12.5 is a good hedge bet on 11 or the 14 that he's been getting.
But again, when you look at it, Kyler Murray, it seems like he gets the ball out a little bit quicker.
Yeah, he has to.
Than Deshaun Watson. And as bad as that Texans offensive line was, Arizona's even worse. And that's really hard to imagine. But that's one of the reasons that we have the lower yards per reception, and then we have the lower overall yards per attempt. So when we look at Deshaun Watson, I would think that his yards per attempt is going to be higher. Hey. And Bill, we're not yelling at you. We
Check
really
out
appreciate
Christian Kirk's market share and his yards per carry.
Oh, see that this is why we have to look at it, because
41 yards per carry isn't a big issue, is it?
Okay, so I think this is going to fix it. Ready?
Yep. Oh, that's awful.
But something tells me that we weren't looking to give him 41 yards per carry.
Yep.
Okay, so Kyler Murray, we're going through 14 interceptions. We said the interception percentage might go up a little bit. Carries, rushing yards. I don't know if anybody's really going to have an issue with him coming in at quarterback 9. Nope. I don't think. And if we go every single player individually, we're going to be here for days. Yeah. So if you're in the chat, drop a comment. Hey, Kenyon Drake looks low. Hopkins looks low. And then we can kind of go into that. I think it would just make this flow a little bit better. Let's talk about real quick Christian Kirk and DeAndre Hopkins. I think Hopkins, people are going to say that's low.
People are going to say it's low. But the issue is he isn't going to be playing in the slot for a while. And we know that Kyler's going to want to get the ball quick. They're going to want to play a quick tempo. So Fitzgerald is still going to get his. And the problem is you could say Hopkins needs 6% more to get up to at least 28%. He's normally in the 30s. You want him at 28%. Who are you going to take that away from at that point? And that's what you end up running into when you do these projections. If you want to give him 6%, you got to take away 6% from everybody else. And Kirk got a 23% last year, and we have him down to 20. Fitzgerald was at 20%. He's now down to 16. And we've dropped everybody to try to give Hopkins that many catches already. And so if you want to be like, no, he needs to be at 25, where are you getting those from? You just can't be like, oh, we'll just take him from Fitzgerald.
The only position I think we bumped up was tight end, and we were being kind of generous. When you look at the tight end position as a whole last year, 8.32% target share. and we have Dan Arnold alone at 8%. And then obviously the other category, some of those are going to be tight ends. And, so I think the 8%, that's probably generous for Dan Arnold. So if we don't hear any hooting and hollering in the chat, we're going to move on. And then at any point, if anybody just says they want to go back and look at another team, please let us know. Again, this is not going to be very formal. And I mean, Mitch, how often whenever we do a regular show, I send you guys the show notes and I'm like the show notes czar.
Don't go off script. Yep. I get yelled at a lot.
I wouldn't say script, but I like to keep the show moving.
Oh, it's all pre-written.
Yeah, we did just read.
We have laps we put in the show.
Right. So going to the Cardinals.
Hey, so one quick instead of changing the view up top, try to change it in that bottom right corner. That might do it for the whole sheet. Do you see that?
Oh, you're tech savvy.
I don't know if it'll do it for all of it, but it's worth a try.
Yeah. I made it even a little bit bigger. Because every single sheet I go to.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we're looking at the Falcons here, 60% pass to run ratio. We did the checks between the targets and receptions and made sure it accounted for the portion that we were looking for based on last year. Now, this is a situation where we have moving pieces because Arizona, you have DeAndre Hopkins, but besides that, we saw Kenyon Drake for a decent amount last year. But now for Atlanta, you have Todd Gurley coming in. You have a second-year offensive coordinator in his second stint in Dirk Koetter, and I'm sure I mispronounced that. I mispronounce every name.
At least you know the names. That's a bad
thing. You completely blank. So Matt Ryan, man, we have him high. We have him high.
We should have him high.
Can you pull up his Pro Football Reference and his historical information?
It's an even year, so that means he's going to be in the MVP discussion. We could say that's not a thing. That has to be a thing if it happens every single year.
But there is some logic behind it, though. If you look at it with the influx and the changing offensive coordinators, this is his second year. Oh, geez, I'm getting all wrought up. I'm hitting that. This is his second year with Dirk Koetter. So I do think there's going to be a little bit more sense of stability. And that's one of the many reasons that we have Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley through the freaking roof this year. Did you see Calvin Ridley said he wants to be elite. He wants to get 1,000 yards.
I saw that.
You could get 1,000 yards in the NFL.
Yeah. But so just taking a quick glance at this so we don't spend 45 minutes on each team. Matt Ryan, and if you look at the target shares that we're giving the wide receivers, that all should be expected. The only thing I think people could kick back on is giving Todd Gurley a 56% market share with 220 carries.
How many carries did he have last year, though?
He was up there. He was about the same.
And one thing, and I'm glad you brought that up, we're not accounting for injuries. And we're not going to sit here and pretend like we can project that because we certainly can't. And I don't even know people that have a trained eye can.
He had 223 last year. So we have him just right there. And that was in 15 games. We have him in 16, with two less carries than he got last year. So,
but are you going to give the ball to Ito Smith?
Nope.
Brian Hill?
Nope.
He's a pit guy. You're not going to give it to. I'm sorry, Quadriolus, you're in the other category. I'm sorry.
If Todd Gurley stays healthy this year, it's such an absolute smash. I mean, you could say it for a lot of running backs, but in his price range right now, or if you have him on your team, I can't see moving him. I don't know who I could trade him for and realistically get in return. Because we know this year could be his last year. He could be done after this year. And so you're like, well, I don't want him on my team because he could die on my team. But at the same time, you could also win a lot of money just by having him on your team.
And if you look at these numbers, yes, the market share is high for the rushing attempts. 4 yards per carry, 3% touchdown percentage. Mm-hmm. Actually, I don't even know if it's a full 3. 2.95. Yeah. Only 61 targets. Devontae Freeman saw over 70. I actually think this is a fairly conservative number here for Todd Gurley. Mm-hmm. And when you look at, I went back to the rankings page real quick. running back 16.
Yep.
I think if he finishes running back 16 this year, people that were stuck with him in Dynasty or got him at a really cheap price in startups this offseason, they're going to be really happy with that.
Look how close running back 21 and running back 12 are. They're separated by 12 points.
Here, we have a question from Bill.
Oh, sorry, just real quick. I can't see the comments. They're not popping up on my side. It's taken forever. So if comments do pop up, you're going to have to see them.
Okay, that's fine. And for once, I have 3 monitors here. And because of everything I have plugged into my laptop, I could not put in the little thing for my mouse. So I'm trying to operate all of this from my the touchpad. So if it takes me 10 minutes to pull a comment here, I apologize. But Bill said, how much weight do you give these when making decisions? And then he said, for your actual teams. And this is a really good point. And this is something I said on a guest spot, one of the million guest spots I did. And again, my wife, when I tell her I have these guest spots, she's like, again, are you serious? But I said, for example, let's scroll up here and we'll get to it when we get to Minnesota. We have Dalvin Cook at running back too. In redraft, I'm not taking him above Saquon Barkley. I'm not doing it because this is not accounting for the risk of injury. And, I do think Saquon actually has a higher ceiling than Dalvin Cook. But again, based on these inputs and these projections. So I would say, Bill, we're taking this into account to an extent. But then on the flip side, we have Sam Darnold, quarterback 25 here for 2020. In our dynasty leagues, we're not going to just ship him off for nothing.
Yeah. A big way that I use the projections is I have the tier list. I have a tier list that I always talk about. I'm constantly working on it. I'm actually trying to update it right now. But what I'll do is I'll have my tier list set up. And then I go in and I look at and see where we have the projections. And right now I'm adding the projections into the tier sheet. And what that does is it shows me if I have these 3, say I have, go back to the rankings real quick, John. And let's say that I have Tyler Boyd and Terry McLaurin.
And what do you want? You want wide receivers?
Go to wide receivers. Yeah, just go to wide receivers. And let's say who else is right there by him? Stefan Diggs. Let's just say I have all of them right next to each other. And I have guys above them and below them. So I go in there and look, and I see Tyler Boyd has 207 projected. Stefan Diggs has 194. How much do we have Terry McLaurin with?
Wait, real quick. Can you see how Christian Kirk dropped because of that typo?
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. Yeah. Give him 10 points away. Yeah, so if I have those 3 and one guy is really low, so he's, 15 points less than the other guys, that would make me think in my head, maybe I need to drop McLaurin down a tier because our projections doesn't show him the same way, but age-wise and everything else, he should be right next to those guys. So that's how I would use the projections to determine where I'm going to be drafting people.
Can you, where did StreamYard go?
What'd you do?
Hold on. My God. Can you see your tiers?
I can see my tiers, yep.
All right, but I don't
The wide receivers are not done right now.
No.
They were. It didn't save.
I don't know. Oh, there's StreamYard. Okay. Yeah. So this is just, you're talking about your tier list. I really like this. I like the trend here. Let me pull this up.
I mean, you can just look at the tight ends right there and it kind of shows you a decent example as well, but
right. But again, you're looking at your dynasty tiers. This clearly does not have a direct correlation between 2020 projected points and your tiers. Because a lot of it, some of it's perceived value.
Yep.
While we love, look at Matt Ryan. Yeah, we have him at 274 here in 2020 based on the +4 for touchdowns, -2 for interceptions. But Daniel Jones just on the open market, typically in dynasty superflex leagues, it's not going to be the other way around.
Exactly.
So I think part of it, you have to look at the perceived value, especially at this point in the off season. Okay. Wrapping up Atlanta. Is there anything Hayden Hurst? I think 73 targets is generous. I know it's lower than Austin Hooper, but 70% catch percentage, the target share is pretty reasonable.
Yeah. And he hasn't ever done anything too. So we're saying that not a career year for him, but he could end up having, his first big season. And we're not even, he's had 39 targets was the highest he's had yet.
And this still puts him at tight end 11.
Yeah. That's how bad tight ends are, dude. Tight ends are horrible.
Yeah. Hayden Hurst, Russell Gage, I think 85 targets. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be, redraft purposes. You're not looking to draft him, especially in a shallow lineup. But he's somebody, if you're in a 14 or 16 team league, he's going to have some value. And let's say Calvin Ridley goes down to injury or COVID for a few weeks. Mm-hmm. A player like Russell Gage, his value skyrockets.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we saw it last year. He won a lot of money in DFS for a couple weeks.
I think I picked him in those weeks, but the rest of my lineup was garbage. I lost a lot of money on DFS, and I'm not letting you talk me into it this year.
It's going to happen.
Yeah. I listened to Scott Connor, Dynasty and Chill, and every week he has a fantastic show. The only issue I have with him is he doesn't do a show every week. He's always leaving us
hit or miss.
But it's that stretch where he leaves us wanting more. Two Drinks says the most athletic tight end Matt Ryan has ever played with. Come on.
Everyone hates Austin Hooper, even though Austin Hooper is still going to be really good in Cleveland. I like how Austin Hooper went from Julio Jones, Calvin Ridley, Devontae Freeman, and he was still able to produce. But now he's going to be on Cleveland with Odell, Chubb, and Landry. And now all of a sudden he's not going to get targets anymore.
Right. Here, real quick, before plugging Scott and Dynasty and Chill, he had a really good conversation. I think it was with Matt Hicks. And they were talking about, let's use a player like Russell Gage. Yeah, his value on the open market right now is nothing. But this is a season where if you have these lower end depth pieces, it could be a really good chance to sell them for something. And I thought it was a really good conversation. So if you're listening live, or if you're going to go back on YouTube and listen to this, go check that out because Scott does a fantastic job on Dynasty and Chill.
My show with him was the best, but there's some other ones that are pretty good too.
Yeah. Anytime you do a guest spot, it is the best. And I think Bill's in the chat here. You were just on Fantasy Timeline
last night. Yep. It's a lot of fun going on with those guys. I had a lot of fun.
I don't want to say that he said you were the second best guest appearance.
Well, that's good because he didn't say that because you definitely weren't the first.
I just gave you the dirty look right there. Anything else here? I don't know if
we can move on.
I feel comfortable there. Like I don't think there's anything that we're looking to change. Nothing's really happened.
And nothing should change with this one either because everything is the exact same. No one's opted out. There shouldn't be anything big going on with this offense either.
No, the only thing is I don't know why we had it in this order. It was switched up. We have it in the correct order based on targets and usage in our actual PDF file, but it got small again.
No, maybe that doesn't work. I was wondering if it did.
Doesn't do shit apparently. There we go. Okay. Lamar Jackson. I just. And for this, you'll notice the other category is pretty small, 32 targets. But here we went.
They don't throw to anybody.
But also we went 2 tight ends deep, 4 wide receivers deep, and then just real quick going back to Atlanta, we went 1 tight end, 3 receivers. So that's kind of the discrepancy in the others category. I think all of this is reasonable. Yep. I don't think anything really has to be updated on our end. I'm sure a lot of people are going to look at it and say this is ridiculous, but I feel good with it. Willie Snead, Miles Boykin, Devin Duvernay, great. Are you okay?
We should give Duvernay at least 18%, but if we take that out of it, no, I think it's all accounted for.
You're okay with Ingram and Dobbins splits?
Yeah. Yep.
Neither one really jumping off the page in terms of targets, just because of the way Jackson utilizes the running backs. And I think Dobbins is going to be just annoying enough.
Just a piss off. I have a lot of Ingram shares from last year because he won me a lot of money last year.
Yeah. And I don't want to say that I was really banging the drum for him, but man, I was pounding the table. Yeah. Okay. So we're not going to spend too much time there. We're going to go to the Bills. It's
Buffalo.
It's going to get small again. Let's go to 200%.
You know,
Wait,
I'm gonna say
any-
this real quick on Buffalo.
Wait, no. Anybody
Okay.
in the chat, if they know how to fix that, can you please tell me?
Right.
Because you have two Excel illiterate people here.
Yeah, exactly.
Like we're sitting, it's like in Zoolander, whenever they're like hitting on the laptop, they're like the files are in the computer. The files are in the computer.
So when we first did this was beginning of July, right?
No,
Was it June?
No, you started putting these together before you did your preliminary before the NFL draft.
Yeah, but
Because
when did we finish?
July.
It was right before. Yeah, so
Let me
at
see
the time, I was still pretty confident that Devin Singletary was going to be getting the most carries. I'm not that confident anymore. I honestly think the correct thing to do would be to switch Moss and Singletary's carries. The more we hear about it, Zach Moss is going to be the first and second down back. Singletary is going to be the third down back. I hate to say it, but I really think that could be true.
All right.
What are your thoughts on it?
Well, again, people were in the chat here. I have to assume they're double fisting. That's why they're not typing. And I really hope they are. And, whether it's liquor, beer, seltzers. But
You just said double fisting. Very nice.
Yeah. So if you're in the chat, like Moss, Singletary, give us a split here. So essentially, we have it just over 50-50 in terms of Devin versus Moss, right? But then we have 30% being made up of others, and Josh Allen is going to obviously take a decent chunk. We have him at 24%. Somebody says hearts. Joey Paw 89 hearts for fisting and Bills running back game. Basically the same.
Yeah.
I don't even know what that means. I don't.
Why don't you Google that, but don't do it on StreamYard. Just do it on a different screen.
I'm not going to do it on this laptop because this is actually a work laptop.
Yeah. Never mind. Don't do that.
Yeah. I'm not going to Google that. Okay. So you really think? Yeah. Joey says.
I mean,
here. Let me throw this up on the screen here instead of me just reading it. Joey says the running backs are just going to wreck each other. They are. For redraft purposes, I don't want to touch this backfield.
No, dude.
No.
Honestly, on this offense, I want Josh Allen.
Yeah, that's it. If you go back and look at our rankings, there really isn't any other player based on these projections. And obviously, these projections are 100% accurate. There's no doubt in my mind. But there's not another player that I would want strictly for 2020. All right, so
honestly, I was super high on Dawson Knox. One thing like Bill brought up, how does these affect how we draft? I was really high on Dawson Knox from February to May, and then we did these projections, and it's like, oh, he's borderline useless in fantasy leagues. So
wait, do you remember when the Bills played the Cowboys in the regular season? I put $100 bet down. Right? Yeah, I put $100 bet down on Dawson Knox to score a touchdown. It was like 5.5 to 1, and he did not find the end zone. So this projection has nothing to do with that.
We don't hold it against him, really.
No, really, it doesn't. But
John might, but I don't.
No, I have Dawson Knox on a lot of rosters. I really do.
Me too.
And then you look at this, and it's like, yeah, he flashed at times. And can you pull up the Bills' overall splits last year? So just 2019 Buffalo Bills stats on Pro Football Ref. Joey's blown up the chat, and I appreciate it, man. He says he has Dawson Knox on every dynasty league, but I can't gauge his activity and opportunity share. So we have him at 12% target share, obviously sitting right there. And I think that's reasonable. And that's with, maybe John Brown comes down a little bit from 20%.
Knox had 11 last year, and they added Stefan Diggs.
Yeah, right.
It's not like Allen's going to go out there and throw 600 times. It's just
no. And I actually, we talked about the opt-outs ad nauseum during our weekly Dynasty Theory show, and we saw the rumors that Tre'Davious White, maybe he was going to opt out. And all kidding aside, these players, they want to opt out for whatever reason.
Of course.
You know,
if they just don't want to play football, they're like, nah, I don't want to play. Cool.
No, but we're never going to sit here and bitch about it. Or you see people on Twitter. I'm like, one guy said that he was going to lose respect. And I retweeted it and I said, well, at least you weren't going to lose respect. You know, it's a typo. So
my muted accounts climb by the day during this stuff.
Right. We have a comment from Mike, and this is off track, but first Dynasty League will be this year. Any tips for a startup league? Yeah. I see Joey says trade back. Oh my God, we love to trade back. We talk about it all the time, but it's getting more and more difficult. Well,
the one thing I will say, you should trade back, but only trade back if you understand how to value those startup picks. If it's your first time doing it, I recommend hardly trading at all and just getting through that first draft, because you could set yourself back for years by making one bad trade in a startup draft. So I used to tell everybody, trade back. But now I'm telling you, if it's your first one, go in there. Don't make a lot of trades unless it's just moving up a little bit or down a little bit.
Or I have a better idea. And we actually hooked up with somebody, Matt. We have a group DM with him. DM us. You have a draft coming up. We would love to sit there and I don't want to say walk you through your draft, but if you have questions, we are glued to our phones 24/7, Mike. We are, to our wives' chagrin, we have our phones out too much. You see the usage rates and it's like, you were on your phone 12 hours yesterday or 12 hours per day for the week. I'm like, okay, I don't need to know that.
Every time I get you're not even listening to me, are you? I'm like, I agreed. I don't know what you said, but I agreed with you.
I don't know how many times the next day, the Amazon truck will come. And I'm like, what did you get? And she's like, we had a full conversation about this. I'm like, yeah, but I was in the middle of a Twitter battle. I couldn't step away. So Dawson Knox 12%. But again,
I really think we need to fix the running backs.
Hold on. We'll get to the running backs, but I mean, we have a lot allocated to other here. And let me see. Again, we looked at, so we have 82% of the targets accounted for based on this amount of players. And then those same players they accounted for 74%, but I think.
It's because we have Diggs. They didn't have Diggs before, so Diggs is going to account for more than what those ancillary pieces did, like Zay Jones.
Yeah.
Like Zay Jones probably shouldn't see the field this year if there's no COVID issues.
And when we did this initially, wait. Zay Jones isn't even there.
Yeah. See, he should exactly. I was saying he shouldn't even see the field. I don't know why you're arguing with me on this, John. He plays for the Raiders now, right?
Yeah. At least, I mean, unless they cut him like they did.
All right. Robert Foster. Is that better?
Yeah, I think he's creeping there still.
Okay.
But it's so we put this out June 25th. And back then, we sat down, you and I basically had Skype calls and we went through teams. And it's like, I know we had rationale then, but we didn't take notes on everything. Okay, this is why we have this. This is why we have this. So going back and actually looking at this in detail now, it's kind of, looking at the accounted for in 2019 versus 2020. Yeah, they added Stephon Diggs. I'm trying to catch up here on some comments. So, all right. I mean, do we give Dawson Knox a bump here? What was his catch percentage last year?
Well, I could tell you he only had 11% target share.
Yeah.
Catch rate was 56%.
Okay, so we gave him a bump there.
I mean, he plays with Josh Allen, so those catch percentages are going to be a little bit lower than for normal people.
But I want everybody to know, if you're tuning in for the first time, you might not know this, but if you've listened regularly, especially last year, I love Josh Allen. But if this shows you anything, the 62% completion percentage, we're trying to be objective here. And despite my love for him, I'm not going to sit there and say, Josh Allen's going to have a 70% completion percentage. It's not going to happen. despite how much I like him and how many shares I have in my dynasty leagues, I don't think that's within the realistic range of outcomes. So 62% is where we went with him. So the catch percentage for Dawson Knox a little bit higher, 12% target share. Do we bump it to 13 maybe? Or are you okay with 12?
I think 12's good. I mean, we could bump it to 13, but honestly, it's not going to change.
No.
Whether he's fantasy relevant or not, because it'll end up making him get to 40 receptions or 41 receptions.
Yeah.
And so I think we should keep it where we have it, because it's not going to change if we're going to be drafting him any sooner or not based off changing that.
Yeah, especially for redraft. I don't think he's not going to be on my radar. Easily, obviously, he takes a big hit from last year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's talk about Diggs, because we have a question from Joey. Only 105 targets.
Yep.
That's a 21% target share, though. I don't know.
Go ahead.
Wait, real quick, Joey. I'm going to throw this out, and you can respond. Is it based on the 21% target share itself, or the separation and difference between Diggs and Brown? Like, would you be more comfortable with an 18% target share for Brown, with 21% staying to Diggs, or do you think there should be a higher percent for Diggs? And this is why we want to do this live. Yeah, I love this conversation. So it's the separation, but then
John Brown had 24% last year, so we're still saying that he's not the number one guy anymore. He's going to be the number two. And you look at someone like Cole Beasley had 22% last year.
Right.
So how much are you really going to drop Brown and add to Diggs? Because we know John Brown and Josh Allen hit it off. And first-year wide receivers that got traded, when do they ever work out and become really good in their first year with the team? Randy Moss? Besides that?
Right. And then Mike says, Bills are my team, so great listening to this. And I love Josh Allen. So I think Mike and I, we just became best friends. Yeah, I don't know. I think if you look at the targets, 105, that sounds really low.
It does, yes.
But it's the 21% target share. I just don't think we can expect. I don't know if we can expect much higher than that. Just because this other category, it 90 targets for random players. I think maybe that's a little high.
That's only 4 a game.
Yeah.
Right, maybe 5 a game going to people that aren't on this list, and I mean that's backup tight.
Just under 6. Yeah, man, we need to talk about your math skills. 4?
I was just guessing, but I mean, what about Tyler Kroft? And guys like that, and we probably aren't even giving enough to Singletary and Moss as well, because I think we have them pretty low. I can't see him on the screen.
We have 10%.
Yeah,
or Singletary, 5% for Moss. Okay, so if we're expecting, you kind of switched here, and you're saying Singletary more third down role, and Moss more of the first and second down work. And that's fine. But I would think that Singletary would get bumped up a little bit in target share.
Do we have that target share to do it, though, is the issue.
Yeah. We're only accounting for 83%.
He was at 11% last year, so we could at least bump him up to there, because I would assume he's not going to go down from last year.
But not only was it in that 11%, I'm pretty sure it's as if he didn't miss a game. I think Air Yards does it that way.
And when TJ Yeldon was playing, he got 10% as well. So they just didn't want to pass to Frank Gore.
Yeah. Yeah, but I also think Singletary, he wasn't as involved, and maybe I'm wrong on this, but if I remember correctly, he wasn't as involved in the passing game or the game plan at all to start the season.
Yeah, that was my big thing going into it, was that coaching staff didn't want to give the rookie the ball. So that was my big hesitation with Zach Moss. But now I'm thinking, with everything they're saying and everything that we're reading going into it, sounds like Zach Moss is going to get playtime from week 1, something that we didn't see really with Devin Singletary.
Yeah, okay. So what do you think about a 12% target share for Devin Singletary being more involved in the passing game?
Yeah, that's fair. It's only going to bump him up like 4 catches.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a huge difference, but it's something. Yeah. And then you're saying,
I do think Moss is going to carry more. At least 35, 35. I don't see how we could have Singletary getting more carries than Moss right now.
All right. Well, not 47.
47. There we go. That should bump up the rankings.
Wait, so bit. I don't know if anybody has this issue. So I said I'm on a work laptop, and it's the touch screen. But no. For some reason, it will always jump. Or like if I have something copied, it will randomly paste it somewhere. It is so frustrating. I've asked my IT department several times, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you should be good to go." And like 5 minutes later, it's jumping around again. It gets so frustrating. All right, so 37%. And then we're doing 33. So you want to flip them.
I do.
But honestly, with the target shares and that,
it's not going to make much of a difference. It really isn't. But I think it's closer to reality than what we had before.
Now, what do you think about the rushing touchdowns? Do you think? Because
that should be switched.
Gore was used a lot.
Yeah. Singletary don't get the run at the goal line.
No. I'm saying. Gore was used a lot at the goal line. He just couldn't find the end zone, though.
No, it was like he had one rushing attempt or something like that on 17 tries within the 5. It was something really stupid like that.
Wait, one touchdown and 17 rushing attempts?
I think so.
Here, you can actually look up
I got it.
red zone rushing on Pro Football Ref. Yeah. Joey, I'm trying to keep up in the comments here. Joey says, "Gotta love getting upset at a work laptop not cooperating for fantasy football." Yeah, I am gonna get upset. Okay, come on.
All right, let's see where we at.
Yeah, again, if you're tuning in for the first time, live or on YouTube, there are not these. Well, I just want to let people know there aren't these lulls on our normal show.
Yes.
It does not happen where we're just sitting here saying,
yeah, normally we're yelling at each other.
Yeah. I had a good steak for dinner tonight.
Hell.
Nice hanger steak, if anybody cares. It was nice.
No one cares. And you didn't eat a real steak either. You could tell them the truth.
It was a hanger steak.
In like some weird rice thing that was all chopped up and cooked.
So if you go to a Japanese restaurant, you get hibachi style steak, filet, whatever it is. I call it fobachi because it's a fake hibachi. It's on my stove, fobachi. And it was really, I got the yum yum sauce, like that pink shrimp sauce. It was really good. Are you pulling this up or not?
I actually went to a different site that I use more, but it didn't work. So now I have to do what you told me, which really sucks.
I can't sit here and talk about my dinner any longer.
Why not? Because that wasn't very good.
It was very good, but we didn't do any side dishes or anything. I had 3 nice sized plates. As soon as I start talking about my steak, I saw a few people jumped off here.
Yeah, they're done. Yeah, dude, I honestly can't pull it up. I can't. For some reason, it's only pulling up the Oh. Oh, all right. Well, I'm not that. Okay, so he had 25 attempts and 2 touchdowns.
Inside the 5 or 10?
Inside the 20. And then inside the 5, he had 6 for -1 yard and 2 touchdowns. Okay. That's impressive.
Here, what was Josh Allen's completion percentage last year? We have a question from Joey in the chat.
5.
Okay, it was not 5.
I was rounding. All right, it was... He went from 52.8% his first year to 58.8% last year.
All right, and then we see a slight improvement. Obviously, I mean, adding Diggs, another viable option. The slight improvement there for Dawson Knox, and then also the improvement for Devin Singletary. I think that's reasonable.
Yeah,
and I know
giving him almost 40 more attempts than he had last year too.
Yeah, and I think what's his name? Feliciano. He's out with a chest injury, I think. But then they signed Winters, the guy, the lineman that the Jets dropped.
Yep.
The Bills picked him up the very next day. So I think offensive line wise, they should be okay. And that's one of the lines that we've talked about continuity here. And the Jets have no returning starters. And I think the Bills, for the most part, they're in a really good spot offensively.
Bills are in a great spot for that division this year. I mean, if they don't win it this year, they're probably not going to win it for a while.
No, this is the year. Mitch, what are you sipping on? Bill wants
Coors. Coors. It's always Coors.
Wait, so you're in Utah. Is it like that weird, like
they finally changed it. So this past year, it used to be 3.2% was all you could get, and now it's same as everywhere else. You get up to 5 and all that stuff. Yeah, took a long time for us to come up to the the 19th century, but we finally made it.
That's fine. I'm in Pittsburgh, and the damn Quakers here. You go across the state line to Utah, Ohio, or West Virginia. You can go to like a gas station and get beer, liquor that has a slightly reduced alcohol content. But here it's turning a little bit, but man,
we still have liquor stores here, dude. Like you got to go to the liquor store to buy anything. And it's like a state-run liquor store that's only open from 8 to 5.
Well, we have the liquor stores too. We have like the wine and spirits or whatever.
Yeah, we can't have those. We have to go to the state-run liquor store. But anyways, where are we at? We're up to Carolina now. Kind of done with this.
Yeah, so we adjusted.
Carolina's tough too. Carolina
quick,
could take us a while.
So we flipped and flopped Moss and Singletary, and then bumped up Moss's touchdown percentage.
Yep.
It like you said, it really isn't making.
It's not going to make a big difference either.
A huge difference.
Yep.
You look at the value of a target versus a rushing attempt, and the data's there. So obviously Devin Singletary, it's helping him out a little bit there.
You'll see it when we get to DeAndre Swift too.
Yeah, let me make this a little bit bigger.
And this one was tough.
It was, but yeah, I mean,
we have McCaffrey so high, but every input we have from market share to target share is what we should expect. But then you go to his PPR ranking and he's 125 points higher than Dalvin Cook.
Is that crazy though? I don't know.
It's not crazy, but when you look at the final score, you're like, he's not going to score 125 points more than running back 2. But you look at the inputs.
What do you drop? That's the thing.
Yeah, you can't drop anything.
I mean, unless they're willing to give the ball to Bonifon or Davis. I think Mike Davis is still there. And they're falling in the other category, but 70% of the market share for Christian McCaffrey. 284 carries. I mean, knock on wood, he hasn't really been injured. We're not projecting injuries, but even if we were, I don't know if we can do it for McCaffrey. So I don't know.
He had 287 last year, so it's not even like we're saying, and that team sucked last year too. So it's even if they're a bad team, he's still going to get that many carries.
And I'm fairly certain that came with. Hold on one sec.
We actually have him with less carries and less targets than he had last year as well.
Where is this?
And to answer Joey's question, who's their RB handcuff? I don't think they have any idea. I think if McCaffrey goes out, it's just going to be a DFS play on whoever we think is in that week, but it's going to be really tough to know who it is going into the season.
I would think it would be Reggie Bonifon, right?
See, I would think it'd be the one that you just mentioned that completely.
Mike Davis?
Mike Davis. Yeah. See, I would assume it'd be Mike Davis, at least running the ball first. But that's the thing is like, I don't know.
But that's also, we're not trying to sit here and act like, okay, we know who the handcuff in every situation is going to be.
Yeah.
So what do we do to kind of cover our asses? Other. Okay, so looking at I'm just pulling up McCaffrey's game log here.
I have it pulled up. I mean,
you take an hour to find anything, so I can't even.
It's already pulled up. What are you talking about?
All right, so what is he?
I already told you.
No, his game log.
Okay, I got his game log. What do you want?
I mean, I for some reason I thought there were a few games, at least 2, where he had like minimal rushing attempts. Maybe I made that up.
Week 16, he had 9 rushing attempts. Week 13, he had 11, and all the rest were above 14.
Okay, so I don't think 284 is crazy, and this defense isn't good, but Teddy Bridgewater, he's better than Kyle Allen,
whatever they threw out there before him.
Who's there? I'm drawing a blank here. Who is the other quarterback? And then Joey says Scarlett.
Will Greer.
Yeah, Greer. I mean,
No.
people wanted him to be something, and I think we saw the answer very quickly there.
You mean Drew Lock? What?
Yeah. Joey says that Scarlett is listed on the depth chart. Yeah, so I don't know. I don't think it's crazy. I think Teddy Bridgewater, his passing attempts, yeah, it's gonna be the most he's ever had, but this team's gonna have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And with Joe Brady, I do think that's feasible. And 575, it might be a tad high, but I still feel pretty comfortable with it. Do you have any changes here?
No. What touchdown percentage do we have for DJ Moore? Because as much as everyone loves DJ Moore, 5 might be his ceiling on the year.
And we have it at 6.
We have it at 6.
He's one of the. Wait, I'm going to say my line that you love to hear. Do you know what it is?
Target dependent.
He's one of those receivers Christian Kirk, Juju, DJ Moore. They have these lower depth of targets. And yeah, they might from time to time have the higher yards after catch, which we know is not sticky year to year. But when we look at our wide receivers, we have DJ Moore coming in at wide receiver 12. And if you talk to 50 people, they're going to say that's too high. If you talk to 50 other people, they're going to say that's way too low. So maybe we're okay.
Yeah, I think we're fine. Everyone else, I think, is pretty good.
Now, this is one that I think I want to make a change.
Samuel is the guy who could end up smashing, though. I mean, I don't want to change it, but at the end of the year, he's the guy we could see, like, they didn't end up giving Robbie Anderson 13. They gave him 8. Samuel got 20 and ended up catching those long bombs and ends up with, 8, 9 touchdowns instead of the 4 that we're giving him.
But I actually think he's going to, because when you look at him at Ohio State, he was playing close to the line of scrimmage. And I think he was kind of miscast in that role last year just because they had nobody else. But now you have Robbie Anderson that can be the field stretcher. And I think Curtis Samuel can play closer to the line of scrimmage. Maybe he gets a few more rushing attempts.
I was just going to say, he is, there you go.
Yeah, maybe.
There's your handcuff, Curtis Samuel.
All right. So what do we have? 2%. All right. This formula is wrong.
For
the wide receivers. Let's see. L9. Okay. Times D18. But we want it to be.
D18 doesn't have anything.
And that's why. So we want C22. This is why we do this. I say C22.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. Doesn't make a huge difference, but it's something. So it gives him 100 rushing yards on 16 carries. Can you pull up Curtis Samuel? Can you pull up his stats?
All right. What you need?
Just his rushing attempts from the last 2 years.
Rushing attempts. He had first year was 4, then 8, then 19.
All right. So I think 16 is fair.
Yeah, that's more than fair. Yeah.
What about touchdown wise?
Touchdowns. He actually had 2 rushing touchdowns in 18, 1 rushing touchdown last year, and then 5 and 6 as far as receiving goes.
All right. So I mean,
he's fine where he's at. I'm just saying that if I had to pick a guy in this offense who could end up blowing up the projections, I would guess it's Curtis Samuel and not DJ Moore.
Yeah.
Or Ian Thomas even.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, and this is something where when we look at Robert Woods for the Rams, I know I want to look at his rushing output because I actually don't think we inserted anything. And he's somebody that's been consistently 150 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. So that's a point and a half a week. And that's going to make a difference. We do have a question. So before we move on, for Ian Thomas, 14% target share.
Yep. 51 targets.
Yeah. Now here's my thing is that possibly too high? Because I know a lot of people, they want to look at Matt Rule and what he did in Baylor. And I think he targeted his tight ends like -8 times while he was there.
Dude, but it's one of the things to where the NFL is just different when it comes to tight ends from college. And Ian Thomas is so good. that you're going to have to assume that, and 14% isn't very high. I mean, we could drop it a little bit, but it's not like we're making Ian Thomas be a top 12 tight end based off this. He's still going to fit in that 13 to 20 range. And at that point, it's just grab the guy. See, he's 18th now.
Right.
I mean, you're still going to draft him over Eifert, Olsen, Knox, Doyle.
Yeah, I think Gronk is the tight end that people might raise their eyebrow about. And then Joey likes it. He says between 3.5 and 5 targets per game. So that's right in line. And I just one last thing. So passing or targets, 89% are accounted for. And when you look at last year, it was 88.63. Yep. And then we came a little bit lower on reception.
Looks like we did a pretty good job there.
Yeah, we'll see what it looks like at the end. That's one of the main reasons that I actually want to get a full season. I mean, there's many reasons I need a full season. Not one. I need a full season. But one of them is, how are these projections going to look? Because it's going to be so annoying. Well, they played 6 games, so we have to take the percentage and all that fun stuff. Chicago Bears. Okay.
Uh-oh. So you said you want to change something on this. And I don't know, because I like this one, I thought. Oh, yeah. The quarterbacks?
Yeah. Do we think Trubisky plays more than I think we have him at 4 games.
We do.
Basically 4 games to 12 there. Maybe 4 games is fair.
As much as we don't account for injuries, and we really don't. But I think 4 games is fair for Trubisky.
No, but it's not even injury. I think he might start the season.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's just not good.
The problem is the Bears, like looking at that division, they're the worst team, and it's not close. They're going to be another top 5 pick going, or at least a top 10 pick going into next year. So there's a good chance Foles goes in. He's not, they're not winning for 12 games. And then they put Trubisky in just to see how well he could do finishing the season.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think maybe with the COVID stuff, I know Foles, obviously he's familiar with the scheme a bit, tying back to Philadelphia. And then the quarterback coach, John DeFilippo, who he was the offensive coordinator in Jacksonville. So there's still some ties there. So are you okay leaving it at 4 and 12?
I would leave it just like this. Yep.
All right. And then just real quick, we had a question.
Montgomery and Cohen don't need a change at all there.
No, I think they're okay. We had a question. So we have Teddy at a 10% market share, but when you look at it, I think some of that's going to be end of game situation.
2.5 a game. All quarterbacks end up having 2 or 3 rushing attempts per game.
Yeah. And 61 rushing yards. So yeah, the answer to the question, Joey, pretty much a statue.
Yep.
There's not much rushing output. We had 61 yards, 1 touchdown. So
one thing I'll mention, I think we only have a few people watching, but when you guys look at this, look at Anthony Miller. Anthony Miller is someone who no one is talking about, but he is a great wide receiver. I mean, wide receiver 2 for the Bears, not wide receiver 2 for fantasy. But if you're looking for like those backup guys, everyone talks about Marvin Jones and all those other guys. Anthony Miller is in such a good spot for a wide receiver 2 this year. He should be on the field 98% of plays. He's still going to get targets. He's someone that I've actually been trying to acquire is like, hey, do you mind throwing him in on the deal?
Yeah, and here's the thing. When you look at the rankings, Anthony Miller, wide receiver 45. But again, we talk about that touchdown variance, and really it's not that big of a difference. So he's wide receiver 45, and we're looking at Jalen Reagor, wide receiver 35. So 1 point per game, boom, it puts you into that back-end wide receiver 3 conversation. There were times that Anthony Miller, he flashed as a fantasy wide receiver 2 last year. We actually saw that stretch. So I do think that's reasonable. Yeah, I'm okay. In the chat, any issues with 263 carries for David Montgomery? Essentially, I think he would have seen more than that if they didn't stick with Mike Davis, because Mike Davis was creeping there last year. He was in Chicago to start the season, and then he got cut pretty much halfway through.
Yeah, the only thing that will hold him back is if the Bears suck so bad they can't run the ball a lot. That's like the only thing that could hold Montgomery back.
Mitch, I don't know if this is your mom, if she made an account, but the Fantasy
No,
Typhoon Studio says
but
I
I
love
like
the
it.
show.
That's right.
Well, thank you, Typhoon. We appreciate
Yes, thank
that.
you. We appreciate it.
And then
It would. Believe me,
KG
as a
said,
Lions fan, it's always sucked to watch the Bears offense. Like, it's never been fun to watch.
despite my jersey setup back here where I have 5, and you can't see him right now.
Dude, but I love Allen Robinson. Like,
but Adams is creeping there with my 5 NFC wide receivers. I'm a Steelers fan, and we had a quarterback named Duck last year, so I feel the pain.
Sure did.
I feel the pain.
Yeah. All right, let's move ahead. There's not much to say about the Bears offense.
Yeah, so I mean, Jimmy Graham, we have him. Yeah, he's there. Bengals, this is another good one, and we don't have much information. So when I talked about at the beginning of the show, these confidence intervals, I couldn't even do the Bengals because there's really no history.
Well, as far as Burrow, but that offense is actually kind of set because they run the most 11 personnel. They took over for the Rams because that's where, Taylor came from, is they run 11 personnel and then some more 11 personnel. So we don't have Uzomah getting a lot of targets, but he's someone to where, you're in the 27th, 28th round of your draft to where it's like, he's going to be on the field for a lot, and he's absolutely free. Maybe he's someone you pick up instead of a Dan Arnold type.
We take part in so many of the safe leagues where it's 2 PPR for tight ends. I have CJ on so many rosters.
Oh, me too.
I'm getting him in the 28th round, and he actually might be creeping up a little bit, not significantly, but 25th, 26th round, just because it is 2 PPR. And then we have a comment from Joey. Joey's fingers have to be tired.
Joey is my favorite listener.
But I think he has to grab a beer or something. Clearly his hands are too free that he's typing so much. Grab a drink, Joey. You earned it. But he says, since he's going to be a fun offense to watch this year, CJ is completely free. Yes, he is. Mm-hmm. My only question is that John Ross, Auden Tate, T. Higgins split. This is one where
you like T. Higgins a lot, and I was completely okay putting him in the others category. I don't think he's actually. I would be shocked if he gets 50 targets this year.
Wait, what did you say though when we started going through these? People want to see the rookies, so we included them.
Oh, it's true. I know, but 50 targets for T. It sounds like a lot. It really does.
I mean, we're not going to give more to John Ross. 82 is already.
I know exactly. You're not going to give more to. I mean, Auden Tate would be the only one. If you wanted to be like, well, John Ross isn't going to play 16 games, but it's not fair to do it to him and not do it to everybody else as well.
Unless we look at, unless we bump T. Higgins down, AJ Green 17%. If AJ Green's healthy, he's going to exceed that.
Oh, he will. Yep.
And we said we're not going to account for injuries. So do you want to bump him a little bit?
Green?
Yeah.
I would see taking Higgins down to 6 and making him close to Tate. And then giving that to AJ Green because Green looks healthy. Green is out there. There's video of him today. Some people say he looks a lot like AJ Brown, but
I saw that tweet.
That was pretty funny.
I mean, we've all had typos. I do it all the time. I've been there. I have been there. But I made I put the GIF in there that said like something like, "I wish I wasn't colorblind," because they said AJ Brown. It was AJ Green. Clearly, just in fun. Okay, so I moved AJ Green to 19%. Probably that's reasonable if he's healthy. Mm-hmm. Joe Mixon getting the work, most of the work there, 68% market share. Joe Burrow, we have him coming.
How much rushing share do we have with Burrow?
10%. But it's not the Teddy Bridgewater 10%.
Yeah. That's tough because I think that's wrong.
Do you think it's high?
I think it's low. Burrow runs a lot, dude.
I know, but here, pull up his college stats.
Yep.
And then Joey says if AJ Green sees 100 targets, it'll be an exciting season for Cincinnati. I mean, Joey, do you think he can come in? If he plays 16 games, does he see less than 19% target share? I don't think so. I don't know.
One sec. I'm comparing Burrow to a guy like Mayfield in college, which I think, Mayfield's pretty statuesque. So if we're going to compare rushing, we should have, an idea to base it off of.
That's
so Burrow had 128 attempts and then 115 attempts, and someone like Baker had 78 and 97. So maybe he didn't run as much. I know he can run very well, but maybe he didn't run as much as I think that he did.
And then if we just skip ahead here, we actually have Baker with 6% market share with 122 rushing yards.
Yep.
So we have Burrow pretty much double that from a rushing yard department.
Yeah.
And then fumbles. I mean, that was the one that it was just kind of arbitrary, I feel like.
Rookies fumble a lot, and he's a running quarterback.
Yeah.
One every other game seems just about right.
Yeah, and for the quarterbacks, essentially what we did, we looked at, for all the positions with fumbles, what have they done historically?
Mm-hmm.
And the rookies are definitely going to be.
Yep. Daniel Jones had like 17 or 18. Not all of them lost, but he had a ton of fumbles last year.
He had a lot. Joey still thinks that 19%'s high.
High for AJ? All right, hold on.
Mitch is digging deep. It's going to take him 2 hours to pull up a website here.
Easy there, laptop boy. Okay, so AJ's had seasons with 178 targets, 164 targets, 132 targets. His last healthy year in 2017, he had 143 targets. I think 111 is pretty good.
Oh, okay. Okay. I misinterpreted that. Joey says 19% is great.
Oh, hold on, wait. Typhoon says, we'll sleep in on John Ross, sleep into the slot. Well, the problem with John Ross is just how he gets his targets. He's not going to end up being targeted more than Green or Boyd. He's going to get, look at his yards per reception. We have Tyler Boyd 11.5 and John Ross at 16. And that's what we're going to see is he's going to get plenty of targets, but his catch rate's going to be lower. But I really still like John Ross this year as well.
And I don't think that, I'm pulling up PFF right now just based on Boyd being in the slot. I don't know if Ross was really in the slot.
No, Boyd will be in the slot. I don't think Ross will be. Ross's skill set doesn't really fit the slot. He's Curtis Samuel pretty much.
Yeah, hold on here. AFC North, Cincinnati Bengals. Let's see.
That's the one thing about PFF is it takes like 16 clicks to get into anything.
I know, but it's some of the best information. It's one of the few things that I will pay. Like I'm subscribed to the highest package there. Again, another thing that
Joey already got 55% out of the slot. I bet you he pulled it from Player Profiler.
All right, so PFF. See, that's interesting, Joey. Let us know if you pulled that from Player Profiler because there's always a discrepancy between the two, and I don't know how Player Profiler does it, but PFF has Tyler Boyd at 65% out of the slot. 412 snaps out of his 634 routes run were from the slot. Yeah. And I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I don't know which one's right. I just know there is a difference.
There's always a discrepancy. In Player Profiler, despite who runs it, I think it really is a great resource. It really is. And
it is. I love the player comparables. They're my favorite thing, how they change.
Oh, James Washington is DeAndre Hopkins, didn't you know?
Yeah, except for next year, he'll change to someone worse because he's not compared to him anymore.
Yeah, and John Ross, in his shortened season, 8 games last year, 26% came from the slot per PFF. Again, Player Profiler.
Maybe it bumps up to 30, but skill set wise, he's not going to be in the slot. If they go 4 wide, it'll be Ross and Boyd in the slot.
Yeah.
But if Boyd's on the field, they're not going to put Boyd outside and have Ross in the slot unless they're trying to get a specific matchup on a safety or something.
Yeah. And then the whether you're watching live or if you're tuning on YouTube, for resources, like we love obviously Pro Football Reference, that's free. Sharp Football Stats, that's free. That's a really good resource.
I use Player Profiler a ton too. Like I love
Player Profiler. And I think Player Profiler, they have a paid version as well. They have some additional things. For paid subscriptions, PFF is great. DLF, that's fantastic. I use the coaching history, quarterback history for a lot of the information here. And that's, I mean, honestly, Dynasty League football, it's not that expensive.
No, it's like $30 a year.
We should be getting paid for these plugs.
We really should. Let's move ahead. Browns.
Yeah. I could see
because Browns are actually really easy. I think Browns, 12 personnel. They have 2 wide receivers that are going to be relevant, 2 tight ends, 2 running backs, and Baker. That's just how it's going to be.
Yeah, this is one of the very few teams, if you look at it, wide receivers, we have 2. Yep. But do you think, we've talked about this. We talked about it in this week's regular episode. Jarvis Landry, it was expected, and there were talks that he was going to be on the PUP to start. I can't see. I think he stays pretty similar to what we had.
Yeah, I mean, he'll end up getting his targets when he comes back. You know,
and we actually have him. We have him very low, actually.
Yeah. So compared to everybody else?
Yeah, we have Landry coming in.
Yeah, he's well low. We have
wide receiver 46. But again, there isn't much separation, but that's really
based
low.
On him missing games that we know is going to happen.
Yeah.
But the one guy you were talking about earlier is someone was talking about Odell Beckham and his range of outcomes and where we have him in the projections. And right now we have him in the mid-20s. But the reason for that is they're going to be a run-first team. And as much as I love Odell, I've actually drafted a ton of Odell this year. You can't give him 150 targets. It's just not possible when you look at how they're going to run the offense. I would love to, but it's just not feasible. Yeah, he has under 50 because of Stefanski. And just how they're just going to be super run heavy.
Under 500. We don't have, to clarify, we don't. No, you said 50. How many Coors Light did you have? Maybe you need
Baker Mayfield. Maybe he does end up under 50. Let's just calm down a little bit. He might punch another officer. Could happen.
I'll leave Baker alone. But no, we have him being more efficient. I believe when we talked about this the first time through, higher completion percentage, higher yards per attempt, higher touchdown percentage, lower interception rate. So I think there were improvements, and we're not Baker people. You know, we're definitely not pro Baker by any means, but we see him as being more efficient this season. But if last year in Minnesota is any indication, and I think this team really lined up well with the tight end situation, we have a 52% pass percentage there. Do you still see that as fair, Mitch?
Oh, yeah, completely fair. Yep.
All right. Baker, yeah. So I mean, Chubb, Hunt.
The Hunt's actually pretty good when you look at the targets. When you go there and look at him, he's someone that I kind of like a little bit going into drafts now, to where if you asked me this back in February, I wouldn't want to have one share of it.
We have him, I think, running back 25. We have him right outside of running back 2. But again, if you look at it, he's 1 point a game outside of running back 22. So I have a few teams, dynasty teams, where I have Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, and I don't mind playing both of them.
No, you can play them both the same week and be okay.
And
Cowboys.
Did your wife text you and say, Mitch, you got to wrap this up?
Well, I mean, it's been an hour and a half. We've gone through like 6 teams.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You said we were staying on till 2 tonight.
I'm okay staying on till 2.
Hey,
that'll be 4 your time.
No. 2 my time.
Oh, okay. That's the cutoff. All right.
Eastern Standard Time's all the
No, right. So Joey, CH hasn't been updated yet. That's the one I really want to get to.
Yes.
Because we're going to go through the exact same method that we have for everybody else. And I want to see where he ends up at. Because I'm not going to be like, oh, he's going to be running back 5 now. I want to see where he ends up when we actually go through everything.
And Mitch, really quick, we haven't missed any opt-outs, have we? So
nope.
The teams that we've touched. Okay.
No, nothing important anyways.
All right. Dallas Cowboys, none of
this one was fun. This one's pretty plain Jane. You got the 3 wide receivers. Each are going to be really close to 1,000 yards.
We actually, CD's pretty low.
Like he's low-ish. We're still giving him 100 targets.
Yeah.
The only thing you could say about CeeDee Lamb, he's going to be playing in the slot. So maybe his catch percentage is a little bit higher than we first thought because those slot targets are going to be a little bit closer. So maybe he's more of a 65, 66% guy compared to the, 63 that we have him at now.
Sorry, I keep messing up the Zoom. Let's get it up there. Now, the only thing, let's see. So row 27, we have 88% of the targets accounted for. Last year, we saw 88. I actually think we can go a little bit higher, though, because of the addition of CeeDee Lamb. And we have 2 running backs in there. We have Zeke and Pollard. I
would honestly say if we need to give anyone some more targets, it shouldn't go to Lamb. It should probably go to Elliott because I think looking at how it lines up, Cooper should get the most, then Gallup, then Lamb. And we had to cut Elliott way back because of how many we have going to even Jarwin, who's getting 12%. We have Jarwin getting more targets than Zeke.
Mitch, can you pull up Sharp Football Stats and look at the 11 personnel just on passing plays in 2019? Because Joey dropped a good question. Man, Joey.
But the problem is,
wait, real quick. I'm 99%.
We should go off. Well, how do you want to look at it? They kept the same offensive coordinator, but
Kellen Moore is still there. Just pull it up. I just want to see.
I have it. What do you want?
The amount of 11 personnel on passing plays.
11 personnel was 78%. Hold on, give me 1 second. So that was 78. Let me go to 2018 and look up Green Bay, if it'll actually work.
Yeah, I think they
2018 Green Bay did 82%. So 80%.
Wait, and that was on passing plays alone?
Passing plays alone. Yep. Yeah.
Okay,
always super careful with that.
Then I think Joey says Lamb's going to run 85% of the routes. So he's going to, I think that's reasonable. Mm-hmm. Maybe we do bump him a little bit here.
I would say catch percentage first, because if he's running out of the slot, we should see a higher catch percentage, at least 65.
All right. So we do 65. I think we can bump him to 19% target share too.
Okay.
And then Zeke, 62 targets. My only concern is, I think part of this is narrative-y, and that's not even a word, but I'm dropping it.
Okay.
That Mike McCarthy doesn't really utilize the running backs in the passing game, but this is one of the situations where it was really tough. So when we talked about those confidence intervals, and if anybody just dropped in recently, they didn't see this to start, that it was the dynamic is very different because you have Mike McCarthy's coaching history, but then you have Kellen Moore and his long tenure of 1 year as the offensive coordinator, and those two didn't necessarily line up. So it's going to be very interesting to see which dynamic wins out there. But so you think 62 targets might be low for Zeke?
Little low.
Pull up because okay, never mind. Joey's doing.
Joey's on it. Like, I know. Really, just jump on the show.
At 95 targets for 20. That's sorry. We're talking about this. Do we have to have a minor reset of Mike McCarthy with him being more? Oh, he says he's more analysis based, but is he really?
Yeah. Well, he said so the funny thing, he said he was, and then like the same week he went into how you want to run the ball more. He was like, yeah, I'm really, I have these analysts working with me. They help me out. And then same week, he's like, running the ball is what you need to do to win in this league.
Yeah. So, if he was 71 targets last year, I think we can do 12%. I think that's fair.
I don't think a big bump, just a small bump there. And then, it doesn't bump him up a lot, but I think it's.
Joey says it's truly amazing to listen to these football guys, and it really Dan always says this. So anybody that's tuning in tonight and hasn't listened to our regular show,
do we get to make fun of Dan? Okay, we're only halfway through the show. That's
no, I'm not going to make fun of him. But we have a third co-host, Dan Lamagna, and he always said his phrase. He has several phrases, but one of them is that somebody talks out of both sides of their mouth, and that is absolutely every coach or scout. I feel like it's all the coach speak bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. Did that change Zeke at all, bumping him up 1%?
I don't think it actually changed where he was.
No, he's still below. No, yeah. I still think that's a realistic outcome. And again, some of these, there is a chance that it's completely wrong because that's still in the range of outcomes. And that's kind of what you talked about doing next year is the ranges. Yeah. And then this is something I forgot to talk about, but I went through and when I added up all the confidence intervals and looked at the remaining target share, minimum, maximum, kind of what was left over. And for the Cowboys, for example, the range was 12% to 21% that was still available. And when you look at it, it was, the lower end, but it's because of the addition of CeeDee Lamb, and we expect him to be at least Randall Cobb, right?
Rushing share for Dak.
Rushing share for Dak. I love these questions. 10%. But again, this is a 10% where he's actually running. Mm-hmm. It isn't a 10% like Teddy Bridgewater of 60 yards. I think that I know for the rushing guard or rushing attempts and the yards, we really focused on the historical data for quarterbacks. And I think for that.
Yeah, that's pretty close. He had 52 last year, 57 in 17, 57 in 16, and he had 75 in 18. So he's just a little bit under what his career average is. But we're thinking that he should be throwing more,
He should, and we actually.
And honestly, if we bump that up to get him up to 52, it's not going to change. We have him as quarterback 3 already, I believe.
Yeah, he's
not going to go up to quarterback 2 based off that.
We have quarterback 5. But again, yeah, it's not going
to change anything.
No, I mean, obviously we're extremely high on him.
Honestly, Joey, so for the carries for the rookies, I don't know exactly how they're going to use them, but they get so few carries to begin with. I mean, we could go and give him a 2% market share, and you see how much adds. It'll add 4 points over the course of the season, so like 0.25 a week. You have to add yards per carry, right?
Let's just say 8 yards per carry. Again, the rushing stats for wide receivers, for the most part, it felt really arbitrary to me. It really
there's some that it adds value to, like you brought up Robert Woods. Robert Woods always does something for whatever reason. But, I mean, a lot of wide receivers are going to get a carry a game or something like that, but it's just not going to end up being fantasy relevant. And it's so hard to keep track of which ones are doing well that it's easier just to, if you leave them out for 90% of the guys, it ends up just averaging out.
All right, so that actually, it would have bumped Lamb up to 35. Say?
Oh, I see what you're doing. Okay, yeah, 35.
Yeah, this isn't
using your brain. I like it.
Yeah, there might be a way to manually adjust it like that, or automatically adjust it rather. But yeah, I don't. I mean, do you want to leave? Oh, no, but the big reason we also adjusted his target share and catch percentage.
Yeah, that's why it jumped up. It wasn't based off that.
Wait, at first I was like, wait, 9 carries jumped him up 12 spots? Yeah, so, but then if you look historically, every year it seems like we see 2 or 3 wide receivers get into that wide receiver 3 range from rookies. And now that puts us Rager and Lamb.
That's good. Because we needed one more. We only had Rager, and he was the only, Lamb's probably the only one that's going to be able to get there. So I'm glad we're able to do it. We'll see what happens when we get to Oakland.
And Minnesota.
Yeah, that's true. Problem is that 12 personnel don't pass enough.
I know.
I don't see that moving. Oh, God.
Right,
I'll let you do this one. See ya.
No, I mean, keep going. I'm just working the screen here. You're doing all the talking. I don't know. I mean, so we have Cortland Sutton really low, but I don't know if there's going to be anything.
No, there's nothing I would save on here.
Last thing on Dallas, Joey says the Cowboys could have 3,000 yard receivers. It absolutely could happen.
Super close. I mean, I bet one's at like 950. He just doesn't top the 1,000-yard mark, but I bet they're all super
No,
close.
Lamb could absolutely be there. But again, I think overall we looked at these a little conservatively. And next year when we do the projections, we're going to include a what did we learn section basically.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the things is going to be how conservative we are. And I don't think I talked about this initially, but if you look at our rankings page, and this is all the clean PDF and it looks great. My sister, she actually did the graphics. If Mitch and I did the graphics, it would have looked like rubbish.
We wouldn't have graphics.
No, but she put it together. So if you check out my pinned tweet on Twitter, you can see it looks clean. It really does. But we went through 3-year averages, the quarterback one average, top 12 quarterbacks, 13 to 24, and then where the average was for quarterback 12, quarterback 18, quarterback 24. And we did this for every position just to kind of like a sanity check. But if you see like Lamar Jackson, he's coming in super low compared to the quarterback one average in the last 3 years. So I think on the top end, we were somewhat conservative. Quarterback 12 average was 269. We're at 267 for Rodgers.
Yeah.
And then 225 for quarterback 18. We were actually a little bit higher. So we found that on the top end, we were a little bit more conservative, but then with the lower tier and mid-tier players, we're a little bit higher because we're not accounting for injuries.
Except for McCaffrey, because he's a unicorn and it's just how it is. There's nothing you can do about it.
Right. But if you look at shameless plug, we've had Mike Clay on the show. And when he does his Clay projections, he puts in there 14 games, 13 games, 15 games. I didn't want to.
We're not there yet is the thing. We're not good enough with the projections yet to be able to figure that all out.
Once we get the free ESPN data and analysis on our side,
exactly,
we can do it because
that would help out a lot.
Mike has those resources.
Yeah.
Okay, so Dallas, Denver. Okay.
Yeah. And we weren't conservative with Drew Lock. If anything, this is his ceiling.
Okay, Mitch is over there smirking. He loves to get a jab. You're being a smartass. Can you pull up?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, can you pull up Drew Lock from 2019? Because I'm fairly certain we gave him a bump in completion percentage.
He only had the 5 games, so holds him back a little bit. He had 64% completion, 4.5% touchdown rate with a 2% interception rate.
Yeah, so we gave him a bump in touchdown percentage. We dropped his interception percentage. What was his yards per attempt?
Yards per attempt was 6.5. I mean, a big thing with this offense is when we first did it, we looked at the whole team. Denver has an unreal defense. They're going to have a top 5 defense this year. They went out and they approved their skill position players, but then they also went and brought in Melvin Gordon, and they still have a pretty, not good offensive line, but they have an average offensive line, which I think is going to cut it this year. I think they're going to be.
Your boy is the offensive line coach.
He is.
You love Mike Munchak.
I do. Yep. Offensive line coaches matter, man.
So I don't know if we have to spend too much time. We don't need
to. Yeah.
We have, I think, Gordon coming in as a low end running back too, but obviously we have a good, a decent chunk going to Philip Lindsay. We're going to see it so often. There's going to be so many running back by committees and so few workhorses that a lot of these backfields, they're going to cannibalize each other. Joey says, not sure if it's a hot take, but Sutton got sniped from being a wide receiver 1 when they drafted Judy and got Melvin Gordon. I love, if you just look at Cortland Sutton, the player, I love him.
Yep.
And this projection has nothing to do with him as a player. And that's why basing everything off of the inputs and not just going in and saying, okay, we think Cortland Sutton's going to have 120 targets and 10 touchdowns, whatever. We went through, obviously, information that we have available to make these educated decisions and guesses. And they are guesses. I'm not going to sit here and pretend they're not. I made the smart ass comment earlier. oh, these are 100% correct. I would be thrilled if they're like 50% correct.
Yeah. But I was just going to mention with Judy. So he's someone who I have lower in my rankings than everyone else does because I kind of base my rankings off if they're going to be gaining value soon in the future. But we have him at a 68% catch rate, which is higher than CeeDee Lamb. But the problem with this offense is he's just not going to get the same targets that he is. And so getting that ceiling out of him to where he's going to accrue value going into next year without an injury to someone else in that offense to where they just feed him the ball over and over for a few weeks, like an AJ Brown type of thing, I just don't see it happening. And so that's why I have Judy a little bit lower, and I don't have him on a lot of teams because everyone's always willing to take him over me, even though I don't think in this offense as it is right now, I'd rather have someone else that's going to accrue value than I could buy Judy later.
Yeah, and this one, it came down to the total team passing attempts, only 480. It's kind of just what we talked about with Cleveland not too long ago. The passing attempts, the volume, it's just not going to be there. And Mitch, can you pull up on Pro Football Reference the total passing attempts and rushing attempts they had?
Yep. What's that? And
Joey says, is Drew Lock the next Alex Smith? I like Drew Lock a lot. And I think maybe he's going to get labeled as that game manager. I don't know if he's going to be a Blake Bortles, but I think Alex Smith could be a pretty good comparison. Not necessarily the way they play, even though maybe a little bit, but labeled as, and you can see like I'm scrolling up and things just pop up on my screen. Like I'm not typing that. Like I got to call.
So, really quick to answer your question. They had 504 pass attempts and 409 rushing attempts last year.
Okay, so the way we looked at it, overall, the total plays being somewhat similar, but a little more run friendly. And I do think that's fair. So we had the 480 passing attempts, and Drew Lock's stats aren't terrible.
No, 26 touchdowns, fine for what he is.
Being able to move the 200 rushing yards, again, the arbitrary kind of 5 fumbles there. I mean, if you want to guess fumbles, you can. I don't know. But just based on pure volume, Drew Lock coming in at quarterback 22. So I think I like Drew Lock. I think he's a really safe and reliable super flex play. I'm not going to start him in a 1 quarterback league. I'm not going to start him in redraft. Especially when you have the options available to stream. But I do think Drew Lock, we play strictly super flex. Yep. I think Drew Lock, I'm fine with him. Now, is he going to be too expensive? Most likely. But I think that hype actually is coming down. Post-draft, people were really excited about him. And we see the ebbs and flows of the values, the perceived values, the off season goes on. So I do think Drew Lock, his perceived values come down a little bit. But again, he's only a few touchdowns, 1 point per game away from quarterback 17. So it's not crazy that he could be a mid quarterback too.
Joey's a big fan of how much you hate quarterbacks.
I love quarterbacks. Well, Joey, you say, "Whoa, baby, there's quarterback rankings." And do you like the little the voice I gave?
Good. That was good.
Whoa, baby. What's the issue, Joey? Tell us, please. Enlighten us. Of course, I'm being a smartass. Yeah, I mean,
next team.
All right. I'm just.
I'll keep you on track. You usually do this to me.
Detroit
Lions, the mighty Detroit Lions.
All right, here I'm going to make this 200%. Mitch, start rolling through it. I'm going to use the restroom very quickly.
Yeah, you're good. So yeah, just leave us there. So let me go and pull up Detroit's game log really quick, just so I can explain what we did with the attempts and stuff from last year. Joey, you're good, dude. This is the reason why we were actually streaming it, is we actually wanted input. We wanted getting just someone else to say something like, well, hey, Kerryon Johnson, something that we weren't thinking about before. We might need to change his rushing yards, seeing what it's right there at. That's probably not a good number to land on. But let me look real quick. They had 571 attempts last year with 407 rushing attempts. Actually, can't scroll down and see. But so, as a Lions fan, like I really want to give more DeAndre Swift. He's a better running back than Kerryon Johnson. He's, he's going to be better than him. But when we look at these, we have to give Kerryon Johnson at least 40%. The Lions really liked him last year. And DeAndre Swift could easily come in and be that second and third down back and then be on the field in the 2-minute drill, because Kerryon's not going to be on the field in 2-minute drill. DeAndre Swift could. So before we made any changes, we actually had DeAndre Swift over Jonathan Taylor this year. And it's solely because of his receiving upside.
Here, Mitch, really quick.
Yep.
As I stepped away, I still had my earphones in. What did you have?
570 and then 407. So extremely close what it's to now.
Yeah, and honestly, the splits weren't that different when we looked at Matthew Stafford versus the hodgepodge towards the end of the season.
David Blah.
And then I heard you say, Joey, that's fine. Yeah, sidetrack us all you want. Again, typical episodes, we have a little more structure. This was just an excuse for Mitch to drink on a Thursday.
I drink almost every night now because of you. But it happens. But, I mean, when we go down and look at the wide receivers, if you look at the game logs, Kenny and Marvin are right next to each other. But you have to look at Marvin's going into his last year. Kenny is the up-and-coming guy. So I think this is the year to where they will separate. They won't be 7.2 targets for one and 6.9 for the other. They will actually start to differentiate a little bit more than what they have previously.
Yeah, and I love Marvin Jones. I have him in so many dynasty teams that he's one of those guys, you can't move him because you're going to get more value from his production. We have both of them with a really solid touchdown percentage. Like 11% for wide receiver, that's high. But when you look at Marvin Jones historically, it's high. And it's almost like every year people say, I'm going to stay in division and we're going to be on the next. But Devontae Adams, he's going to regress. But when you're pretty much level every single year, that is your mean. You're not really going to regress beyond that.
That's a big issue I think people have is you're going to regress. But it's what you're regressing to your personal mean. You're not regressing to someone else's. It's not like Devontae Adams is going to regress to Randall Cobb. It's what's in his range of outcomes.
Oh, I'm going to get yelled at. I think I woke my son up.
Is that what I hear?
Yeah, if you hear him in the back.
I thought it was my kid because my youngest is getting a bath right now.
No, and I'm watching.
Oh, no.
I'm watching.
You're in so much trouble.
I'll get yelled at tomorrow, but tonight we're talking about our projections. It's fine.
It might have been my kid, dude.
And then let's see. No, I mean, I have the
you could see
app. No. Wait, so this is really getting sidetracked, but we had a baby monitor, and it was it wasn't expensive, but like $100. And we took it to the beach, and I don't know if something got in it, but the button got stuck, and then eventually we just couldn't use it anymore. So we came home, and my wife was like, "Let's get one of these doggy cams."
Right.
And it was like $30. The picture is crystal clear. I have to call them to see if we could work a sponsorship or something. I don't even know what company it is, but Joey says you need to slightly adjust Swift yards per carry.
No, we need to actually adjust Kerryon Johnson's. See where his rushing yards are right now? Maybe we just bump that up to 4.07.
Why? What's wrong with that?
You don't know what 666 is?
Yeah, but it's a projection.
I know, but it's funny. You and humor just doesn't work.
I have a good sense of humor.
I'm going to start calling you Dan.
How dare you? All right. 4.07.
See? Perfect.
Better. There. Joey, I don't know what the monitor is. I don't know. And then he says karma. I know what 666 is, but I don't think the devil really cares about our projections.
You weren't entirely sure about double fisting, but let's go to the Packers.
I know what double fisting is, but I think it was being taken in another direction. All right. If there's no other issue here with the Lions, we have the 667 rushing yards. Matthew Stafford, we love him this year. But I think they're going to be forced to throw. Looking at the Packers.
This is actually another really easy team, if you ask me.
Yeah, and we gave Rodgers the pass to run ratio still pretty significant. And I have a comment here, lower pass percentage a bit. Like
I know, right? I mean, everything they tell us is we should, but at the same time, it's Aaron Rodgers. So maybe we're completely wrong and they go Tennessee Titans and throw the ball 500 times. They still have Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. Actually, we have to make adjustments here because Devin Funchess, we got to our first opt-out.
Oh, that's true.
All right. So Devin Funchess out. And now this is where we kind of make the decision. Do we throw another receiver in? Do we keep it to other? Do we allocate his targets and divide them up among Sternberger, Lazard, Devontae Adams?
So I'm pulling up their depth chart just to make sure we're not forgetting anybody.
Yeah.
Valdez Scantling, Equanimeous St. Brown. The problem is I would say it's between those two for wide receiver 2, but as we saw last year, wide receiver 3, it might not matter. At this point, we might just need to move that 10% closer to the other category.
Yeah. What do you think? All right. So we have to get rid of Funchess. The old.
I do think Lazard sees close to 100 targets. I really do.
And then Joey says Beggleton. Mike says Joey, no one else is there. I love this chat. I mean, it's been very active, and I really do appreciate it. Okay. So we can drop all of this to 0 because if I delete the line right
it messes
now,
everything up.
It does, yeah. So I just have to put that to 0. Devontae Adams, I mean, is 155? Is a 27% target share too low?
I hate giving people 30%. I think the only person in the league that deserves 30% is probably Michael Thomas.
Yeah.
And then everyone else, 30% is just too much to give to people.
And I want to make a comment because this is one of the situations where there's somebody, Jamal Williams, he's missing from this list. When we did these projections, even though we are Dynasty Theory and our typical weekly show, it is very Dynasty centric with longer and short-term value changes. But Jamal Williams, he's not going to be somebody that's going to be rostered in a typical redraft league. Nope. He's not going to be somebody that you're looking to start on a weekly basis. And if he is, you need to reevaluate playing fantasy football. In a typical 10, 12 friends and family redraft league, you're not playing Jamal Williams. So I don't think Jamal Williams is going to get too many carries. And if you look at our market share, we have 87% accounted for. Last year, between the top 2 players, 95% was accounted for. So it actually leaves a little bit of a larger window for Jamal Williams. But just like we talked about, and Mitch, you gave me a hard time for including who is the rookie that you gave me a hard time?
T. Higgins?
Yes. Yep. Well, we included A.J. Dillon because you said people are going to want to see what he's at.
Sorry, I was reading the chat. What do you say?
I'm also reading the chat. I think you just have to adjust your other section because of the unknown, or do you take a stand on a player? Yeah,
the problem is taking a stand on the player means that you're putting your personal input so much into this, and we're trying to take that out as much as possible. So if it ends up, it makes the others a little bit higher, then I'm okay with that instead of being like, well, no, I believe Jamal Williams is going to get 25% and then 10% target share.
Yeah, I mean, where are we assigning if we're looking at wide receiver 3, where are we assigning that target share?
Yeah, and how can we feel comfortable doing it?
Is it St. Brown? I don't know.
Yeah, I think St. Brown might be the guy this year. St. Brown might end up being over Lazard, but everything that tells us now, I would just rather give it to Lazard, and we'll see how it goes.
No, I mean, as you can see, it's minimal. This might be something that we have to revisit off the air. I think with Funchess out, you have to bump Lazard a bit, but then it's...
No, I don't think he was going to affect Lazard's targets.
Yeah. This is honestly something that I think we have to revisit off the air because we could hear
later in the offseason. This is what we look at like in September, and we could know a little bit more too.
This is we look at it September 6th or whatever, the Saturday before the first Sunday.
All right, Houston's fun too. I like Houston. I'm so high on this team, man.
Yeah, I mean, Deshaun Watson, David Johnson. We had again. This is a situation. It's very similar to Todd Gurley.
Oh yeah.
Wait, we have a comment here. Oh God, my son, he's still screaming in the background. So I apologize if you hear him. Typhoon, he says, I interviewed Jamal Williams on my show, a lot of 21 personnel. Mm-hmm. He and Jones on the field at the same time, motioned Jamal Williams out to run pivots, Texas wheel option routes on linebacker. And that would be interesting. Mm-hmm. And I honestly, I think I would love to see coaches get more creative. We would love to see it in Houston. We would love to see it in Cleveland where we have viable, two viable running back options, and as opposed to just seeing 12 personnel or 11 personnel. So I mean, yeah, Typhoon, if that's the case, I would love to see that LaFleur get a little more creative. But David Johnson, the market share 51%, and then when we look at the total,
Green Bay actually ran a kind of low percentage of 21 personnel. Sorry.
But here's my thing too with the 21.
Right. Yeah.
So if you're looking on Sharp Football Stats, that obviously that's going to include situations where the fullback was in the game.
That's true.
Yep. Or for whatever team. So just
hold up the right one.
All right, so let's talk about Houston here, and then let's kind of skip around a little bit just for time purposes because I don't think
I want to get Kansas City.
All right, hold on.
Kansas City and New England, and we good.
Well, look, hold on. A 16-game season coming for Fuller. He's one of those guys that we would love to see a full season. Mm-hmm. I don't know if we're ever going to see.
I'll say this: Brandon Cooks or Will Fuller. If you need to take a break, dude, I could talk for a little bit about the Texans. It's cool.
I'm not going anywhere.
Okay. So either Cooks or Fuller are going to explode this season. I really, really think that. There's one that's going to smash their ADP, but I honestly can't tell you who it is. And there's not one I'm willing to be like, he's going to be the 25% guy. Will Fuller?
I think it's going to be whoever. I think it's whoever stays healthy.
Yeah. And again, who's going to stay healthy?
Yeah.
Randall Cobb it is.
Yeah, tight ends here. It kind of fell in line with their historical usage. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people like Waring. I know he has that athletic profile. When you look at Player Profiler, all of his bars, they're high across the whole range there.
If you give Waring 13, take Akins and Fells out, you give them all 13%, I still don't want him on a team. That's the sad thing about tight ends is it ends up just not mattering if they're only getting 13% of the targets.
Yeah. I know a lot of people are low on Deshaun Watson. We still have him.
I thought we were a little bit lower on him. I'm pretty sure we have him in the teens.
Deshaun Watson?
I think so. No, 11.
11.
Yeah.
But again, it's a few plays here or there from possibly quarterback 8. Let's see here. What percentage of passing yards do you have accounted for? And okay, so for quarterbacks, that's a really good question. I'm glad that came up. We essentially, unless it was a situation like a Los Angeles Chargers or Chicago Bears, we dumped everything into one quarterback. We're not going to try to predict an injury, and we're not going to try to predict, okay, the Texans, they're leading in X amount of games at this point, and then they have a backup quarterback come in and play a drive.
We didn't want to give Robert Griffin 60 attempts just because Lamar Jackson's winning so many games. He gets, on the bench in the middle of the fourth quarter.
And that's going to be something, I think, when we look next year in the What Did We Learn section.
Yeah.
That's going to be something we want to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we did not want to account for injuries or missing drives strictly because of the game script.
Go to Kansas City.
All right. So
let's get the fun one.
All right, Kansas City. Have you thought about this at all? Because I have not.
Nope, we will.
So we're going in. Hold on, let's see. Real quick. Houston. Nobody opted out. Jacksonville.
Actually, Jacksonville had wide receiver opt out. Who was it? Was it Jacksonville or was it Miami that I'm thinking? It's Miami.
Right? Miami had 2 wide receivers opt out. And then real quick, just back on Houston, rushing yards. Joey says 550 rushing yards in 2018, 400 in 2019. We have them at really 387. Close. We have them at 387. Yeah. I think based on the game script, we're going to see. Now, I think a lot of those carries weren't designed runs. I think they were scrambles that resulted in rushing attempts. But I do think based on the game script and that defense, I don't think it's going to be great. That was something that we kind of took into account. I think that it's reflected in his passing attempts. Yep. Okay, before Mitch has an absolute conniption.
That's right. You might as well delete Damian and put, because we can't, the one issue is we can't mess with how many running backs we have because everything gets switched over to the rankings. So we can't change up how things are on the cells. But I would say we change Damian Williams to Washington.
I think Washington,
because it's not Darwin.
No, it's not Darwin. I think Washington, and I know a lot of people, they want to give that narrative. Well, Washington played with Mahomes in college.
Oh God!
How much
showered area, man?
Yeah, how much are we really going to put into that? But let's put Washington here. But I think market share. I think it's gonna change here.
It will. Yep, it's gonna go up for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Has to.
40%.
Give me 1 sec. Let me look at. So, what do we have as far as totals for the plays? Let's go off that first. So we have
here. Hold on. I'm gonna go back. Nothing has changed right now.
How you good, man?
950 plays.
Okay, so as far as total pass goes, they had 576 and then 375 last year. So we're still super close on that. We actually gave them more rushing attempts than what they had previously.
I think that was just due to the addition of Clyde Edwards-Helaire being drafted in the first round.
Yeah. So they gave Williams had 111, only starting 6 games. LaShawn McCoy had 101, and the next guy up had Darrell Williams had 41. Go back up to Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I would say he needs to be at least to 150 because that would give him.
But again, we talked about this, not trying to get players to a certain threshold.
I'm spacing it off this, what I just said. If you were listening, I don't know if you were busy over there, but what happened was we have 111 for Damian Williams on 6 games started. And then we have LaShawn McCoy on 101 out of 9 games. And so I split those two. So it was 211 total. So I said 150 there based off those 2 running backs if they played the full 16 games because they had 6 games started and 9 games started. Ends up being 15, right?
All right.
So I'm not saying he gets all of their work. I'm saying he gets 75% of the work that those 2 got.
Okay. So 40% probably is right there.
Exactly. And then we keep, I think we could keep Williams close. Yeah, right around there. See, so
Because
that wasn't me just being wanting to bump Clyde Edwards-Helaire up.
all right, I'm just making sure. So when we look at what we have accounted for, last year was 68%, but there were injuries last year, and there were definitely factors.
There was a
and this
ton.
is kind of where,
yeah,
and this is where you kind of have to be a little subjective in your approach because, again, for the 1,000th time, we're not going to account for injuries. But then for the 2020 market share between those two, well, three players because of Mahomes as well, we have 80% accounted for, which I think is fair.
Yeah. And I'll say this, as far as like the receptions go, Williams and McCoy had 60. And that's, based off 16 games. We have to have him getting at least close to that because you're not going to be giving Washington a high target share. You're not going to give a high target share to Darwin Thompson. He's going to be their receiving back.
Washington was actually really good in the passing game in Oakland last year. He was. He was actually really solid in the games he played when Jacobs was out. It was a small sample size, but I think it was at least 15 PPR points per game.
I pulled up the one around Washington. How about that?
That's fine.
I pulled up the one that the other Dwayne.
I love this dead air right here.
You like it? We'll start talking, there wouldn't be dead air. Oh,
that's rude. That is a loud keyboard.
I told you, dude. I try to always keep it quiet when we do this.
Yeah, you're fine. Yeah, maybe like 14% in April. Like not a huge shift, but a little bump for Edwards-Helaire. I don't know.
He did. He had 36 targets last year, 34 before. Yeah, so maybe we just need a bump because we had Damian getting a lot more than what I think what Washington's going to get. So maybe we just don't bump him down as much as I was thinking before.
7%?
Yeah. And that gives him. Yeah. So that doesn't.
Is 84 targets. That sounds
high.
A lot.
That's high.
That sounds like a lot.
Maybe we just keep him where he was.
Yeah.
13. Yep.
Now, when we look at the wide receivers, are we comfortable with this target share?
21 for Tyreek. Yeah, I think so. As long as Sammy doesn't go nuts, I think that should be pretty close. And then Kelsey at 21.
Because Watkins had a pretty solid target share last year, but if you remember, there were some
I'm pulling him up right now.
I want to say he eclipsed 100 targets, I think.
So he had 90 targets. Kelsey was 24%. Hill was 21%. Watkins was 19. Then everyone else was 9 or less.
Okay. So we have a bump with Hardman, reduced Watkins a little bit, reduced Kelsey a little bit.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So do you want to see where this puts?
I do.
Edwards-Helaire.
Because I actually didn't see where the total was. He was 20-something before.
We didn't look.
Well, before he was in the 20s, right?
Yeah, here he is.
He's 20.
It would put him at running back 12.
Yeah, fair.
And I don't think that's crazy. And still, I think even a little bit conservative because if you look at a lot of people, his projections. And then, Joey said Watkins had 24 targets in the first two games. And I forget the percentage exactly, but X amount of his PPR points last year came in the first game.
Yeah.
And it was absurd.
Like 45% or something like that.
He was like wide receiver 1 in week 1. And then he was like wide receiver 50, whatever it was. Okay. So that's Kansas City. I think that's really the only change we have to make. And that's
that makes him pretty firm there at 12 as well. He's not really close to 11, and he's not anywhere close to being a top 10. He's 18 points away from that.
Yeah. I think, Le'Veon Bell, that one's
I'm actually really happy that's how it turned out. I would have felt really stupid if he ended up coming in, as RB5 or something like that.
But again, that's kind of why we did it this way.
Yep. We got to do the Patriots, and then
hold on.
You're the one saying you got to go.
What'd you say?
You're the one saying that.
No, I just meant let's wrap it up by midnight here.
Oh,
we still have an hour.
Don't know why you're yelling at me so much.
I yell at you all the time.
I know. I'm used to it.
Okay. One thing I want to talk about here.
Oh, we need to delete Renfro.
I do want to talk about, there's two things actually. I want to talk about, because I feel comfortable with the splits between the passing attempts and rushing attempts. Let me enlarge this real quick. Josh Jacobs' targets, I do think, admittedly, were coming in a little bit low.
I do not think so.
I think it's a little low.
I don't think it's too low. Everything they have told us this offseason is he is not going to be the receiving back.
I think we pull Richard and Jacobs closer together.
Richard and Jacobs? No, Richard is their third down back. Why would we give Jacobs more catches and drop down their third down back? Disagree.
So a few things. One, the shoulder injury last year. Maybe that impacted Jacobs from a usage standpoint in the passing game.
When did he injure it?
I want to say it was against the Packers for some reason. I feel like
I'm going to trust you on this. You're good with this stuff. Let me go to game logs and we'll see where he was at before. Green Bay.
But let me say, then it's a rookie running back getting acquainted with the passing scheme.
But here's the issue. First game of the season, 23 attempts. So he was on the field most game. 1 reception. Next game, 12 attempts, 0. 10 attempts, 2. 17 attempts, 2. 26 attempts, 3. 21 attempts, 3. 28 attempts, 2. 23 attempts, 3. 17 attempts, 0. Like, he just isn't a reception guy. As much as...
But let's wait. So those are the second number. Was that receptions you were saying?
Yeah. No, that was targets. That 0 was targets.
But even 2 targets a game is still higher than this.
But he didn't average 2 targets a game. He averaged less than 2 targets a game.
For how many games? How many targets did he have last year?
Okay, I lied. He played 13 games and he had 27 targets.
Okay, so just above 2. I'm not saying a crazy amount because I actually, in dynasty terms, I'm selling Jacobs. I really am. I think the injuries have been piling up since high school.
I actually really like him. So I'm going on the British Ballers podcast on Sunday, and I've been asked, do I want Miles Sanders or Josh Jacobs? I want Josh Jacobs. His touchdown,
not in dynasty,
touchdown upside is so high. No. Miles Sanders' touchdown upside is DJ Moore-esque.
Yeah, but for dynasty, unless you're talking strictly 2020, I do like Josh Jacobs.
You don't like Josh Jacobs in dynasty?
No.
Why?
I said I think the injury's been piling up, and I do think that, just like you said, his upside is capped. So
wasn't Miles Sanders also injured
for what, 2 games, a game? But look at their injury history.
Fine, I will. How about that?
Pull it up. All right,
I'm pulling it up.
All right, we're bumping Josh Jacobs to 7% target share from 5 to 7.
All right, he could get 3 more targets. That makes you happy.
I think 36 is reasonable. 36 targets. We have him with 285 carries because Richard and Bowden, they're not going to get the carries. And that puts us 91% accounted for, 86 last year. Thank you, Joey. I like Joey. He's a nice guy.
Hey, Joey, I don't like you anymore.
All right. So
let's see real quick. Let's see how this thing even works. He hasn't even had a lot. In 2017, he had so we talked about Josh Jacobs. He had a thigh hamstring sprain.
Wait. Time. Are you using Injury Predictor?
Yeah, is that wrong?
For some reason, they don't include. I've used that as a resource for checking up on injuries, and they have left some off, and I don't know why.
So what do you even go to then?
I don't know.
Well, thanks for that.
I don't know, but there are there are injury concerns there. I read something. I gotta find it. I'll send it to you. But I'm pretty sure stuff has been happening going back to high school. Pretty sure. I talked to his guidance counselor. I'm kidding about that.
No, you're not.
I didn't. Mr. Guidance counselor. I don't know what that accent was. That was ridiculous.
Yeah, we got to drop Renfro. Good point, Joey. That's the most important thing about Oakland is Renfro is dust. Everyone, me really was trying to say Renfro is not going to be the slot guy. And it was like, hold on. Renfro's the slot guy. Lo and behold, Renfro isn't going to be the slot guy.
No, and I can admit when I'm wrong. It doesn't happen often, but I can admit.
One thing I will say is if Henry Ruggs is in the slot, we have his catch percentage way off because he actually has great hands. Hands was not his issue coming in. So it's, we were basing that off him being the X out there and just running.
Okay. What do you think about a 65% catch rate?
That's pretty much what we gave to CD Lamb. So it's fair to give it to Ruggs as well.
That's pretty high. And then what do you think about Renfro going from 10 to
I wouldn't drop him that low. Yeah, exactly. 8. Yeah.
Still 41 targets and then jumping Ruggs up to 17%.
Yep. So not a huge change, but
it's going to be enough to make me look at Mr. Ruggs a little bit more than I have been.
Told you, dude. I've been telling you about Ruggs. I'm like, dude, this Oakland Raiders offense could be pretty decent.
Yeah. But again, I can admit
what's up, Matt? Don't worry, Matt. This wasn't a real show. We were just talking on Excel a lot and yelling at each other.
Wasn't much yelling. All right, where's Ruggs?
Ruggs pretty low. We had him really low, man.
Wasn't this low?
Why do you have a 0? Oh, we'll see. We X'd out. Yep.
Yeah, that was. Why is this search not? I freaking hate this computer.
Do you want me to try to pull it up?
No, here he is.
I just don't know if it'll mess you up if I do it.
No, please don't.
So 154. Ooh.
Okay, so that bumps him from wide receiver 73.
That's going to put him in the 30s.
Yeah, and I think it's still only 50.
So it puts him right next to Jerry Jeudy. Fine.
Yeah, and I think it's fair. We have Lamb going up quite a bit. Yeah, no, admittedly, there's a few players that I definitely was coming in low on.
Me too.
And Ruggs was one of them.
I was the Ruggs guy. And I was like, oh, God, Derek Carr sucks. When I probably should have always stayed on the Henry Ruggs guy.
Yeah.
No, listen, Joey. Click the top left triangle on your spreadsheet before searching.
Oh.
I don't know what that is. Oh, that thing?
I've never had that freaking issue. I don't know. Okay. So in the chat, any issues here? Any issues with what you're seeing with the wide receivers? 65% catch percentage for Ruggs might be conservative still. And
I really think it might be. Yeah.
All right. Matt's throwing some personal bias in here.
I like it.
Carr went to school where I live.
Honestly, if a quarterback went to high school where I live, I would probably have like 5 jerseys of him. So not a lot of Utah football players in the NFL. Sorry.
No. I didn't have a quarterback, but LeVar Arrington went to my high school.
And you don't have his jersey? That'd be a badass jersey to have. I guarantee you Pristine has one. Uh-oh. John froze. And if John freezes and doesn't come back, the show may be ended. We'll have to see. Devontae Adams went to my... No kidding. That's cool. That's really cool. See, I didn't go to college, so no one went to my college. Don't think there's a whole bunch of just high schoolers playing in the NFL right now. Oh, so don't you guys love how Brian Edwards is the talk of Twitter right now? You go on Dynasty Twitter and all of a sudden Brian Edwards should have gone in the first round. What do I think of Lynn? So I don't know if you guys follow, what's his name? Here, let me pull him up real quick on Twitter so I can make sure I get his handle right. Uh-oh, John left. That's an issue. He'll log back in though. So Rough Draft Mike on Twitter brought this up, and we have actually had him on the show during our draft special. Lynn could end up being what Taysom Hill is for the Saints. He could end up being just that gadget guy to where he's not really the third down back. He's not really used all over the field. It's more he's just being used in specific ways during the game would be the easiest way I could put. So maybe he's on the field instead of 20 snaps. He's closer to being on the field for 6 or 7 snaps, but all of those are really, really useful. And since John was in control of all this, we lost everything. Let's see if he texts me yet. Nope. Any questions, guys, on anything? I don't care what team it's about. We could even talk about drafting. I don't care.
I don't know what the hell happened, but the Wi-Fi went out.
Yes. Lynn played college. Well, he played, it was like a, what do you call him? A hybrid. He played quarterback. He played running back. He played wide receiver. So
yeah,
I think he's going to do all the same. Yeah. Sorry, dude. Sorry. I just kept it rolling.
That's fine. I was talking to myself, then I saw the wheels going, and I don't know what the heck happened. But you lost viewers though. What happened?
I did?
No, I'm just kidding.
They probably figured it was over.
Yeah, Jacob. Okay. So any other issues here? This is one of those situations where, like, do we have Tyrell Williams too high? Maybe,
but no. But I still think he's going to get 40 targets on the year.
Well, we have him at 61.
39 catches. So I mean, that's 3 a game. I could easily see him getting 3 catches a game. Well, 2.5 really.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see here. Chargers.
Let's go to New England because New England can end up taking 20 minutes.
Yeah, hold on. I'm just for the Chargers, we have pretty much 4 games for Tyrod and the rest going to Herbert. Mm-hmm. I feel comfortable with that.
KG's asking what happened to Renfro. The news came out today that Ruggs is going to be their slot wide receiver. I mean, he's not going to be the only slot wide receiver, but he's going to be, mainly used in the slot, which immediately kills Renfro because that's the only place Renfro will ever play.
Wait, so I did see that not that it was a misquote, but it was taken out of context.
It was a sentence out of the whole paragraph sort of thing. Right?
Yeah, it was. He's going to be used on the outside as well as the slot, and I think it was okay. He's going to be used out of the slot.
Mm-hmm. Who did that happen to yesterday? Oh, just really quick because we have a minute. Did you actually read the whole Ronald Jones quote from Bruce Arians?
No, because I don't put much stock in what Bruce Arians says.
But it was actually really funny because it came out like Ronald Jones is our guy. That's what everybody got. Yep. And then the next one was all the running backs are still competing and special teams is really going to really matter. And they're going to be competing for the third down role. So everything everybody said previously about Ronald Jones is true. For right now, he's going to be the first and second down back, and he's not going to be the third down back. And that's what everybody has said. But for some reason on Twitter, it turned into, the dude's Le'Veon Bell now.
Yeah, I don't know. Okay, looking at the Rams really quick. I do think I want to revisit Van Jefferson. I don't know. He's not going to get 50 targets.
Yeah, probably not.
We both like him a lot.
Yeah.
And I think he's one of those players that when you look at his draft capital and where he was going in rookie drafts, there was that market inefficiency because I think he's going to be very good eventually, but I would be shocked if he get 50 targets.
If Josh Reynolds wasn't there, he'd be getting more. But the thing is, those two can just hit each other enough to where neither of them really get, to that point to where we have them.
I mean, are 620 pass attempts too high?
Not with that defense and that offensive line, man. They're not going to be running a lot.
Yeah, pull up.
I got
last year just to.
Yeah. So 2019. I mean, it'll be about the same situation. Crappy offensive line and everything. They had 632 pass attempts and 401 rushing attempts. So pretty close.
We have 620, 390. So we actually dropped the total plays down.
Yeah, I mean, that team's not any better, and I actually think they're going to be one of the worst teams. That's right. What do you mean, hey, Joey, you knew we loved Take Me, man. Like, you knew it.
No, Mitch, I will say I think we're really high projection wise for Higbee compared to other people, but I feel very comfortable with it.
Completely.
I do.
I think when you break it down, why? So let's look at the target shares real quick. I'll pull up the area.
Wait, really quick. I would like to. Can we flip and flop Jefferson and Everett?
Jefferson, yeah, of course, yeah, that makes
6%. I don't think. I think Everett's going to be a little more involved, and I don't think Jefferson. That 50 targets was too high.
Yep. So just looking at target share based off last year, Woods was at 23%. Cup was at 21%. For some reason, it's not pull. Oh, Brandon Cooks is there. Brandon Cooks got 13%. And so we have both of the wide receiver threes under him. And then Higbee had 15% when he was playing. Everett was at 13%. So we're just saying that Higbee gets, when he's on the field, he's going to be getting most of that tight end work.
Yeah, there's so many different ways to look at it based on last year. And people say, well, when Everett came back, Higbee was still involved, but Everett was still a little banged up. And we understand that. But I just think while Higbee, I could sit here and go back and forth so many times. Higbee got the contract extension. I don't even know if there was any dead cap after 2020. It's structured it's structured in an interesting way. Everett, he's a free agent. So going off on a tangent, dynasty-wise, if you're in a tight end premium dynasty league, Bryson Hopkins is somebody to target. I really like Bryson Hopkins. Higbee got 3.5 receptions per game. Right.
That includes early in the season, though, when Higbee wasn't on the field.
And it also includes when they were running a lot of 11 personnel, which definitely shifted. And Joey, a lot of people are on board with, you're not really, you're just kind of stating facts. But I do think a lot of people are on board with that thought process.
And when Higbee went off, he went against the best tight end matchups in the league. Have you look at it?
I think Arizona was two of them.
Yeah, he was. And Arizona can't guard tight ends. That's just was what it was.
Yeah, so
we're higher on him, but here's what I will always say. As soon as you hit tight end 5 or 6, there's going to be guys that end up being higher than the other ones, and it's just going to be how you base your projections. If it ends up being Hunter Henry as your tight end 5, I'm fine with that. We end up having Higbee just because of how the target share works out for the Rams.
But if you look at it, 4 touchdowns, 804 receiving yards. It's not crazy.
No,
it's not. It's 50 receiving yards a game.
And
what is going on with my internet?
Everyone wants to bring up the 12 personnel, right? When you look at passing for the 12 personnel, did your computer just die?
No, I'm still here. Can you hear me?
I could hear you, but your Excel went away.
Yeah, I'm here. I got to cut this real quick. I don't know what the hell is going on. I never use dual monitors.
No.
And I'm going to blame that. Keep talking there. You're good.
So, what was I talking about? I was talking about, 12 personnel. So I'll actually pull it up right now because I still have. Everyone loves to bring up the 12 personnel. And everyone says later in the season, right, is when it really started. So if you go from weeks 11 to week 17, and you actually look at when. There we go. Why did it not pull it up? Apply.
Well, there we go. So you're talking about the transition to 12 personnel.
Exactly.
Cup, his usage came down. Woods, his went up. And then Higbee and Everett, I think they're both going to be on the field a lot.
It's so overblown as far as passing attempts. I think it matters when they were running the ball, they ran a ton of 12 personnel. But guess what? When they were passing the balls from week 11 to week 17, they did it 71% of the time, which ends up being in the top 8 of the NFL. So it's not like they just went away from 11 personnel. They're like, no, we're not running that anymore. They used 12 personnel a lot more on running plays. And then when they were passing, they were still using a crap load of 11 personnel. So I just think people are looking at, because if you go to all plays, it shows you a lot more. But if you have to differentiate between the pass and the run, that's when you actually see how it was being used.
Joey says the row line is crap, so having two extra guys to chip in on a rusher, it's definitely helpful. And Cup and Woods, both of them, because shameless plug, I just recently wrote an article for Fantasy Pros.
Do you write for Fantasy Pros?
I don't know if I've ever talked about that.
Okay. You should.
So looking at Cup and Woods, they both had a higher slot percentage in the early stage of the season, and Cup was higher throughout. Even whenever they were in 11 personnel and dropped more to 12 personnel. But Cup was definitely, I want to say it was like 60 to 40%. Don't quote me on that. Yeah. But Cup ran more of his routes out of the slot than Woods did. I just, again, if you go to Sharp or PFF or Player Profiler, there's that discrepancy, but you can at least get an idea. Anything with the running backs here, Mitch?
No, but the one thing I was going to bring up is 12 personnel doesn't mean they have two tight ends on the line on the outsides of the tackle. You can have 12 personnel and have a tight end on the outside. So it doesn't mean that Cup can't be in the slot when they're in 12 personnel. Like Everett's fast enough, they could put him on the outside. Higbee's, it's the same thing that the Eagles do. You know what I mean? They could put Ertz on the outside and be completely okay, and they're still in 12 personnel.
And I think to an extent, it's what the 49ers do. If you look at their 11 personnel, it's really low. But Kittle can be split out wide without a doubt.
Yeah. It's all personnel based. I mean, when you get the really elite tight ends who could do stuff, it throws these percentages off quite a bit.
I get so pissed off when I have technical difficulties. Like I'm actually really fired up over here. I hate it. We've
had horrible internet service during the day. So my wife's here working at home and it just goes out for hours and she's pissed. But luckily enough at night, I've been okay each day.
I get really agitated. Like I'm all fired up now.
Well, let's get to the Patriots and get through it and then get you off because it's already 11:30 your time.
I'm in no rush. I still have an unopened Truly here.
That's
I have one more. No, I'm good. I'm just getting pissy here. Okay.
No.
So me pissy?
No, that's never happened.
Wait, somebody had a tweet. It was Jake Trowbridge, and it was talking about being petty. Yeah. And I commented, I was like, trust me, I can reach that level of pettiness.
That's funny. Check out Woods.
Hold on. I just want to Dolphins.
No, Woods rushing share. Go back to Rams. We have a question from the chat, sir.
What do we have for Woods rushing share?
We might not have anything.
I'm going to show you it's 0, and that's it's
wrong.
We got to fix that.
So we got to fix that.
What do we say? Not that market share.
Woods averages about 1 a game. 1 attempt a game.
Okay,
and it's been that way for 2 years now.
Okay, let's see. Carries 26. See 26.
No, that's weird. Those formulas messed up.
Yeah. Okay. Yep, so I think 4% yards per carry.
1 sec. He averages 8.3 and then 6.8, so about 7.2 to keep him on the lower side.
I'll just say 7.
Yeah.
And then
1 touchdown. Yeah. However, that works out to 1. He's had that 2 years. Yeah, that's perfect. It's that little percentage thing gets me.
No, it's too. Yeah, it's not.
Yeah.
Let's see, 0.075. There you go. And then we'll just focus that. Okay. Yeah. So that's going to bump him just a little bit because in that range we have so many wide receivers close together. I think we had him wide receiver 18.
16 points is quite a bit in that range.
It really is. I think it's going to put him at 12.
229.
13.
Yeah.
Right above DeAndre
Hopkins. That's
and I'm sure nobody's going to have an issue with that. Nobody. But I'm glad that people are sitting here throughout this entire thing and seeing the process laid out and not just the final product where it's like, oh, that's a hot take. We're just doing the inputs.
Yep.
And then whatever spits out. It's not, oh, we want this guy to be a certain spot. Okay. So the Rams, Dolphins, we do have to look at this. We'll look at this off the air. Nobody
Yeah, let's
cares
do it
about the
differently. That
Dolphins.
one's going to take longer.
Nobody's going to care about the Dolphins wide receiver.
We know you want Parker and Preston, and then bleh.
Yeah, and honestly, I think Gesicki's going to have to get a bump. And
Mm.
I don't know if you guys know this, but I write for Fantasy Pros, and but I one of the articles, and that was a joke because I talk about it.
Oh, was it?
Talk
Sorry,
about it.
I wasn't sure I was joking.
Okay, you didn't laugh, and I'm pretty
No.
funny. But Mike
Oh,
Gesicki, he was one of the guys I said, I don't think he's going to have a great 2020, comparatively speaking. Whenever you look at the expectation, I do think he's going to have to get a bump here based on those two.
Okay, so let's just talk about it really quick so we have a minute. He's a tight end. Chan Gailey doesn't use tight ends. Are we falling into the same thing that we did with Arians on? Well, they'll just put him in the slot and then he'll get targets that way.
But can I ask who else? Isaiah Ford?
Yeah, that's the thing is I don't know who else they're going to use, but we've kind of fallen this trap before on offensive coordinators who don't use tight ends.
Yeah.
And then we're going to be like, oh, there's no one else, so he has to get targets.
My only thing is because
know.
In the article, I drove home the point about Chan Gailey and the way he utilized tight ends, and he doesn't. But then he's been away for a few years. Sounds like he was in prison or something.
1 sec.
He served some time there. But I think it's going to be interesting because then do they split him out to the slot like we talked about with the potential for OJ Howard under Bruce Arians? And we didn't see that. But yeah, I definitely want to revisit this though, because we're going to have to spend more time on this. Minnesota Vikings. I think we're okay here, actually.
Nothing has changed there.
No, I think we're okay.
Same.
I think we're good.
Yeah. New England's going to be tough, man.
New England. Okay, well, Jarrett Stidham, I think we can
take his name off.
We can put him on the bench.
Yep. Although people are still saying that he's going to start. That's magical.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. Let me pull him up.
Yeah, pull up some historical data because when we did this initially, Cam Newton was not a Patriot. So
yeah.
See you, Joey. Thank you for popping in.
Hey, thanks for coming in, man. Oh, never mind. I see what he's saying. He's saying that Stidham.
Oh, I thought he was saying he's leaving. Oh, yeah, Joey, stay. Come on.
All right. So it's hard because I remember looking at this, and when you look at what Brady did, he averages like 100 more pass attempts than what Newton ever has. Newton's never thrown for more than 517 attempts. That was his rookie year.
All right. And then based on the opt-outs and, well, one, Matt Lacoste is out.
Yeah. Dude, Aussie. Like, he's the only one left, dude. I was telling everyone.
People are still talking about Dalton Keene, though.
Oh, God, because people don't pay attention. Sorry, it's the biggest reason. Like, he is a fullback. Sorry.
Okay, so let's look at Cam Newton. Do we think that pass percentage increases because of all the opt-outs on the defensive side of the ball?
So 5'10", that would be his highest pass attempts. So he had 516. He has never had more than that except for in 2011. I just don't see them putting him out there for 550 times. Do you want
how much of that is the scheme with Rivera as opposed to the actual player themselves?
I don't know. That's the question. That's why this one was going to be so tough, because we can go and look at Belichick and we should probably move him closer to 575-ish.
Yeah, but I don't think he's going to throw that many times.
Yeah, see, neither do I. But if you base it off the trends, that's where it kind of is.
Yeah. So then do we split the difference?
525 would put him at the highest in his career, but it's not so high that it's outlandish. I mean, that only puts him at 990 total, I think, plays.
Yeah. Yeah, so if we
because they're still going to run the ball a crap load with Cam Newton. I mean, that's not going down. But it does kill Sony's market share. He ain't getting 40 no more.
I mean, I think we have to really talk about the splits there because he is in the pop And I think he might be on the pup to start the season. Does Damian Harris relinquish that starting role? I don't know.
Him or Burkhead. I mean, we have to just keep them super close like what we thought before. I would say probably 21% for Burkhead, 20% for Harris, and then bump down Sony. The problem is we're going to have to give
Burkhead's not going to get that many touches.
I bet you Burkhead gets that many touches if Sony starts on pup. Let me look up Burkhead.
I don't think he is.
I might be remembering from 2018, but let me look him up. Because he was injured all last year, right?
He's injured every year.
I can't read it. Is that 74 for him? 74 would actually be his highest ever. So we might want to keep him there.
Yeah, let me change this.
Even in Cincinnati, he only had 74.
I forget that he was in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Here, real quick, how does my mic pick up back here?
Fine. There's not even a big difference. There's a little bit of an echo, but not as bad.
Yeah. Okay. Always just wondering.
Yep.
Okay, so Burkhead.
I'd say keep Burkhead where he is. Maybe raise Harris up. Should we go the 2018 New England and see how their backfield was?
Sure. I'm just tinkering right now.
Yep. Give me 1 sec. I'll pull up 2018 and see where it went.
And I think overall the yards per carry might go up just because of Cam Newton.
They don't have Cordero Patterson anymore, right?
No, he's in Chicago.
He got 50 last year.
2018.
2018, yeah.
Yeah. This is a fucking shit.
They just don't give running backs a ton of carries. I mean, Sony got 200 that year.
Yeah.
Well, let's figure out Cam first.
Yeah, he's going to have more than 47 carries.
Yeah. I mean, bump him up to 20 and see just what it takes. Well, that would be 87 carries, right?
No, it would be 94.
Look at you, math. 93.
Well, okay, it's rounded. 2 times 47 is not 93, but it's rounded.
Oh, it's not? Are you sure 27 was 27, though?
Let me just... Where are you getting 27? 47.
I'm just making up numbers now.
Yeah, I know.
See, I think you riled up like I did before the last podcast. That was great.
Oh, I was really upset last week.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable.
Okay, so he's only had 1 season under 100 since, but he has been more injured. 2018, he only had 100. 2017 had 140, 2016 90. So what do we have? 93. I think 93 is. It might even be a little bit high, but
yeah, and then
that's what I'm okay being about high on.
Rushing touchdowns, I think we have to bump it a little bit too.
Oh yeah. He had his rookie year. He had 14 rushing touchdowns.
He had a lot.
Holy
he had
crap.
a lot.
Yeah, he averages 5. I mean, if he's healthy, he gets at least 5.
All right, we'll say 5. I mean, you saw the way Tom Brady was utilized at the goal line.
Oh, yeah.
And Cam Newton is going to get that. So just looking at the touchdowns, we're still below. Actually, let me see. That was just added. No, hold on.
You hold on.
So we have 5, 6, 11. So we're up to 16.
Yep.
And that's assuming none of the receivers get a touchdown, I think.
Yeah. I mean, that's close enough. It's just keeping us in where we should be. Okay, so what does that give us for market share left over? I don't even know where we're at now.
Market share. I hate that I have to zoom in so much.
I know. It's a pain.
Okay, that puts us at 104% market share.
Yeah, so, I mean, we already knew Sony had to go down. So if he goes on PUP, he misses the first 6 games, right? But even if he doesn't go on PUP, I don't think he's going to get that 40%.
What? No, I put him at 30%.
Oh, you put him at 30 and down. Oh, actually, really. And we're still high.
Yeah, just because of the Cam Newton stuff.
Oh, Joey has a good point. You didn't adjust Cam's yard per rushing attempt.
Yeah. Well, let me go do that.
Yeah,
yeah, that's definitely going to be What's his career?
Joey has him between 4.5 to 5 to 4. I'd say about 4.2 ish. Let me look it up. 5, 6, 5, 5, 5, 4, 5, 4.8. I mean, he averages 5.1. So he's more injured, 4.8. That's his lowest besides the 1 year where he had 4.
We'll do 4.8. That works for me.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, we need to adjust the market share. Unless somehow we're getting 104% of the market share. See, look,
Yeah.
I was scrolling and this thing pops up here.
It's because you don't have your own computer. You should buy that.
No,
Well, with all the tens of thousands of dollars you win playing Dynasty each year, John, I think you could, afford at least Surface Pro.
it's not in the Dynasty Theory budget at this time. All right, so
Vegas is though.
yeah, I mean Burkhead, maybe we drop him a little bit.
I think 74 is fair for Burkhead. I really do.
Okay, then it's this 55 because White's gonna get his.
Yep.
And that still wasn't even that much. It's
25 and 20.
25 for who? Sony?
Yeah, 25 for Sony and 20 for Harris. And we could actually go in and readjust this. If it looks like Sony's going to start, then I would say we even go, 30% for Michelle and 15 for Damian, but without knowing if he's starting on the pup now.
And based on the amount of players that we have the 4 running backs listed.
Look, that's pretty good. It's almost like we've done this before. 94% to 94%.
Yeah, I mean, so based on that, it at least checks out for the total amount of players. Okay, now I think I still feel comfortable with the target shares we have allocated to the running backs.
Yes. Yep.
Well, now, I mean, I think we have to drop Sony then because the expectation is
you drop him to 2, it's going to take 5 away from him. Maybe give that 1 more percent to, yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah, there you go. That dropped Mitch 2 points.
So one thing I want to look at too is the yards per carry. And Joey, to talk about your comment, Rex averages 5 yards per rush when healthy. The reason that we brought this, I thought we should bring it down a little bit, was based on the unknown around Jarrett Stidham. But with Cam Newton now, the expectation is he's going to help that running game. Yeah. So maybe we lift these guys up a little bit.
I think we bump them all up the same. Raise them all 3 to 4%. I mean, I could go and look at Cam's history and what his running backs do if you want.
Yeah, I mean,
but the problem is it's Christian McCaffrey, and so we have to go back to 2016 to look that up.
Bumped all of them 0.4.
Yeah. Hey, just making up a number like that, but
I mean, you really can't, because this is one of the situations where there's so much changing that, I do think Cam Newton is going to positively impact the rushing game.
And that's the expectation. It was Jonathan Stewart. So, I mean, you go from CMC to Jonathan Stewart, and none of these guys are CMC and Jonathan Stewart, so you really can't even compare.
Yeah, I think I'm okay with this for now, but we will tinker probably a little bit. Yep. The only other thing...
Fix Asiasi. Told you.
For what?
At least 6. Yeah, put Dalton Keene.
Is it?
A. There's an A.
Yeah,
right there.
That's what I thought.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. I think they're not going to really matter, but
target share, we have 86 and 87. Okay, that's there. The only other thing, we know that Cam Newton, he's actually done really well with the big body receivers.
He has.
Funchess.
Okay.
Kelvin Benjamin.
Here's my argument with that. It's because he's only had big body. What happened when he had the dude that's on the NFL Network right now? Steve Smith. He peppered Steve Smith. Yeah. So I think that's just based on what he had available.
Now, Sanu is on the pup right now, if I recall
he?
correctly. He is. He got put there with Sony. And there was a third player who I can't remember.
Oh, he's been activated.
Sanu has?
Yeah, Patriots activate Sanu off pup list.
Okay.
That was 1 to 2 days ago. Yep.
Okay. And check up Keen's spelling.
Pretty sure that's what it is. No, you're right. You were right. Huh.
I had the double E to start.
Fullbacks always spell their names weird, though. They always have those weird stuff to
them. Okay. So I'm quoting you on this. You feel comfortable with the wide receiver top tiers?
Yeah, I mean, they're so close. Dropping Edelman below 22%. He's still Edelman,
Okay. All right. So I'm okay with that for the time being. New Orleans, no change.
Nope.
New York Giants.
Nope.
No change. Okay. I do want to look at the wide receivers very quickly.
Yeah, that was tough.
Now, I think Shepard, because whenever Shepard, Slayton, Tate, and Ingram, like the 3 games or, it was
I thought
rarely,
they never were on the field together.
See, I thought those 4 were.
And Barkley wasn't on at that time. Is that right?
Yeah, there was the 5 of them weren't on together. But I think we have to give Shepard a bump. I think 19% might be light on him.
He had 22% last year. So did Ingram and Tate, and Slayton had 16%.
But that's with them not always being
people
on the field
missing.
together.
Right. I mean, Saquon only got 14%. And I bet you by the end of the season, he has a lot more than 14% next year. But
yeah.
I mean, it's close, man. I mean, you could bump up to 20 if you really need to, but I don't think you could bump him up to 22 or 23.
No, not. And again, I mean, one injury is going to derail all this.
Yeah.
Okay. No, that's fine. And then, I mean, Caden Smith, I talk about him all the time, and I love him.
See, Joey knows. There wasn't a game last year when Ingram and all 3 wide receivers played together last year.
I have to find the graphic I saw because maybe it was just the 3 receivers together.
How many fumbles does he have? None, because Daniel Jones is going to be a top 5 quarterback next year.
He's not, and we actually still put him. We get 8 fumbles, and I think 8 fumbles lost.
Yeah, it's lost. That's a loss. So
yeah, so they're all coming in at -2, and I think that still might be light, but I think that's at least.
Yep.
Did you see the picture though? Daniel Jones is looking jacked.
Oh, I did. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not quite Gardner Minshew, but he's getting there.
No, he's getting there. He was looking good. All right, New York Jets.
Oh God.
Wait, we didn't even have Josh Doxson on here, so that worked out really well.
Why would we do that?
I do think Chris Herndon might be a little bit low. And let me enlarge this.
Okay, I will argue if you want to try to lower Jameson Crowder, because that's not going to happen.
No.
I was actually just looking because I had air yards pulled up earlier today. He was in like the top 20 of all wide receivers as far as target share goes last year.
Yeah, I think Sam Darnold and him have that rapport, and he's going to be peppered with targets. That offensive line is not great. We just said there were no returning starters back this year. They're going to need that quick release, and I think Crowder's going to be the answer.
I do think you're right, though. I think we probably have Mims too high for.
I was just going to say that.
In that offense, it should probably. Let me look at. I know Griffin got a lot. Griffin got a 10% target share last year. Herndon got 7%. So that's probably why we based it off 11 to begin with.
All right, so I dropped Mims to 12%, Herndon to 13. Do you think that's fair?
Yeah, that's fair.
So if we look at accounted for 83 and 85, we're a little light.
Yeah, I'd rather be light than over.
Yeah. And then market share, okay. Yeah, I again, Herndon was one of those guys. I'm not high on him by any means, but when I saw the projections, I couldn't even really argue with people. I was like, admittedly we're a little bit low. So if we go to the rankings here,
Well, we had Griffin on there when we first did it, I think. I think we took Griffin off afterwards.
we moved him to other, yeah.
Yeah.
So if we're looking at 1 PPR, it doesn't bump him much, but it moves him up to
24-ish. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not much. I still think he's going to disappoint that offense. Adam Gase, historically, his offenses don't utilize the tight end, and Sam Darnold, the lower average depth of target. They're going to have to. I don't know. I don't think Herndon's going to be what people want him to be.
I remember the Green Bay sheet. I think there's something wrong with the Green Bay sheet because there's no way Sternberger should be that perfect. Did it just end up that way?
39.
How did he end up with 11.52 reception? You know what I mean?
I think we relied on you here.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that was all my fault. Yeah.
It
didn't pull it up. Told you.
What?
Look at 2 PPR. He has 138.28. If you go look at him on rankings, there's no decimals there but for everybody else there is decimals.
138. 138. Okay, it's just
okay.
For some reason,
right?
Yeah, I don't. I have to look at the formulas, but
I'm sure it's
still
your computer.
Yeah, I'm going to blame my work computer. All right, so where are we? That was
Jets.
Giants. We did the Jets. Yeah, I'm okay with this for now.
Okay.
Eagles. I think we have to look at the wide receivers here.
Okay.
Like
I think we knew Alshon was going on the pump.
Yeah, we did adjust Alshon already because I think we had him like 80 targets and we dropped him down.
Yep.
Okay. Steelers. Let me enlarge this so people can see. I keep forgetting to do this. I'm still okay here. Nothing changed.
No, Juju's still good. Connor's going to get 50% of the market share. If Ben stays healthy, they should be good. The only thing is maybe Ebron. I mean, we're not going to change it, but I could see Ebron getting a little bit of a higher target share, but we'll see how that plays out.
That's what we said about Vance McDonald.
Exactly. That's why I'm not changing today. I'm thinking about it.
And I know we're going through these teams quickly. Like I said, this is the
we'll go back through it. Yeah.
But if anybody that's watching this, if you look over this and you're like, Jesus, guys, this is awful.
What the hell are you doing?
Tweet at us. Like, don't even DM. Call us out on Twitter. I think the conversation's been it's been good tonight. It's been very good. San Francisco, we already accounted for the Deebo Samuel recovery time.
Added Trent Taylor like we should, even though everyone's just catching on now.
I picked him up in so many leagues last year because he was the hype during the offseason, and then he got injured.
Yep.
I
like this one. Yeah, I felt comfortable about this one the whole time.
All right, so nothing. I think we have to add Mr. Will Dissly to this. Because it sounds like he's on track for a nice recovery here. Didn't you see that report?
I did not see that report, no.
Yeah, it sounds like he's doing well.
So how big of a target share are we going to give him?
Wait, really quick. We dropped Deebo. It wasn't necessarily games, but I think what was the initial? I think we dropped him like 5% target share with 4% target share.
Yep.
Here's my concern. I don't know. I think based on the 49ers, obviously going to the Super Bowl last year, they're not going to really feel the need to rush him back because obviously Deebo Samuel, I think he's a great dynasty asset. Mm-hmm. And shameless plug, when we had Stephania Bell on the show, who's a huge 49ers fan, she said long-term, she's not worried. But for the short term, she did have a concern because she thought that they would ease him back into it. Even if he thought he was fine, he was going to get eased back into it. So we dropped him. I want to say it was about a 4% dip in his target share. So again, not necessarily X amount of games, but there was a drop in his production. I don't know, your 2020 cam looks all like, which maybe makes a lot of sense. Jalen Hurd process. Yeah, Jalen Hurd. I know a lot of people. He's the Twitter darling this offseason.
Yeah, he is. I mean, I still like him, but where do you put him? Is he going to get running back work? Is he going to be a wide receiver? No, I still don't know where they're going to use him. So at this point, putting him in the projections is pretty hard still.
Yeah, I don't feel.
I wish I knew more, but I just don't.
I saw the report. Who was it? And maybe Joey or somebody else in the chat knows. Somebody came out and said that he was the most physical wide receiver he had to play against. I think it was Tevin Coleman. He said it was the most physical wide receiver he ever saw. Yeah.
To Mostert said it.
Oh, it was Mostert. Oh, and yeah. I keep misinterpreting everything Joey says in the chat. He was saying first of all, I thought Joey was leaving an hour ago, and then he's like, nope, not leaving. He's saying that Jalen Hurd processed last year to the injury. Yeah. They really eased him back. So, yeah, I think Deebo Samuel, he's a long-term asset here for the 49ers, and there's no reason to rush him back.
If Jordan Howard ends up staying healthy while Deebo's out, I mean, if there's just Jordan Howard, Jordan Reed. Dude, it's 10 o'clock here. It's well past my bedtime. I'm not like you East Coasters. You can stay up late. But if Jordan Reed can stay healthy, they're just going to keep Deebo back for that much longer because the 12 personnel is going to be crazy. If you could have Kittle with a healthy Jordan Reed, that's going to be a pretty scary offense.
Yeah, what do we think about Jordan Reed?
We don't add him. I mean,
other?
Yeah, he's another. Yeah.
He's one of those guys that I wish he could have stayed healthy.
Yep.
Just so many concussions. I know the comparison is Evan Ingram.
Yep. That's what I was about last night on Timeline.
Yes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I would like to look back at this, though.
Yeah, we'll run back through it.
Possibly at the Seahawks, too, with Disley. I would like to.
I'll read more about him tomorrow. I'll put some.
Honestly, though, I mean,
I didn't see anything about him. I thought he was still really injured, so that's my bad.
I mean, honestly, maybe we just pull him and we take a certain percentage from the other, and just it equates out, you know.
Yeah.
Tampa Bay.
Why did we have Vaughn with too many rushing attempts?
Yeah, this is going to be changed. I mean, just the fact that we've seen so many players go on this COVID list and come back already, and Vaughn is still on it. And there was
I'm not even that worried about that because they're not even really practicing right now yet. They're just like running on the field a little bit. But I would just say we just flat out switch Ronald Jones and Keyshawn Vaughn.
All right, so 48%, 39%, and then
reception-wise might be an issue too.
I don't know if Jones is going to get that much in the reception department.
I don't think so, but I didn't remember how high we had Vaughn. Because if we have Vaughn really high.
No, we have them all. I mean, we might have to drop Vaughn a little bit.
Oh,
but then it's
okay. Yeah, they're not getting it.
They're all really close. And then it's like, where does McCoy come into play?
He doesn't.
No,
I really think he's gonna be inactive on a lot of games. He can't play special teams.
He might not even make the team.
Yeah, I think
he's getting $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
And real quick, I like how when we talk about these players, it's like, oh, he's only getting $1 million.
You do this every time. Every time we bring up $1 million, you're like, let's preference this.
I say it all the time because I'm like, after taxes, it's pretty much chump change. Who wants that?
Yeah. Well, not in Texas or Florida. There's no taxes. Income taxes, anyways. That's why McCoy went there, man. I'm convinced.
Could be. Yeah, we'll look back at that, and I'm still very comfortable. I think people are really too high on Rob Gronkowski. This backfield all comes down to who Brady trusts them. Absolutely. And it's like if you blow anything in pass protection, your ass is going to be on the bench.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
No, it really Brady is going to have a big he's going to have a say in what happens there in that backfield. So I completely agree.
If you want to have some fun, go look up PFF and pull up Ronald Jones and look at his pass grade from last year. He missed quite a few assignments for the very little amount he was supposed to do pass blocking.
I was just going to say, I know he was not used in pass pro a lot. So the
When
way
he did, he
he
got blown up.
yeah. So the way we have it now, we have Ronald Jones and Keyshawn Vaughn pretty much 50-50. I don't know though. Like, I do have a concern now with Keyshawn Vaughn. I know they're not necessarily practicing, but just missing time in developing that rapport there.
I mean, they're not doing anything still for a month. I mean, we're still a month from them stepping on the field and doing anything. And we never thought he was going to be there week 1.
Wait, no, we're a month away from the season.
Yeah, exactly. That's when they're actually going to do something meaningful on the field.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, that was my point on that.
No, you're fine. Let's see here. Scrolling through.
That's funny, Joey.
That's because Jameson.
He can now, though.
Tennessee Titans.
Yeah, nothing's changed here.
Nope.
You want AJ Brown, Henry, and Tannehill, and then Evans is a decent backup.
Well, the only thing that I think we have to change with Washington is maybe the name.
Oh, yeah. That's got to get that taken care of.
They
still should have done football club. I don't know how they missed out on that. Everyone else in the world goes football club. Why do we have to do football team for Washington? It's stupid.
Yeah, this has nothing to do with projections, but I've seen different people saying, "Oh, well, it's a great move." Well, not great move, but it's Dan Snyder is probably thinking they're still going to call us the Redskins. They're still going to call us that. But then if you think about it, people were like, "Oh, I'm not going to buy. Why would you buy merchandise with this name?" I think this could be a collector's item, like eventually.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Do you remember the year Washington was the Washington football team? So I don't know. Again, that has nothing to do with anything. Yeah. Football club is like soccer. And then Mitch, you're a big MLS guy out there in Utah. You love MLS.
It's a big, yeah. Maybe if Washington played soccer, they'd actually be good. Just wondering.
Yeah. Logan Thomas. Are we off the boat here on Jeremy Sprinkle? It sounds like Logan Thomas might be the tight end.
Okay. I don't know, to be honest. I mean, I'll have to read more into it. I thought Sprinkle was the guy, but if it ends up being Logan Thomas, we could just switch the name.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a huge impact here. Kelvin Harmon, yes, thank you.
Yeah, just pulling up their depth chart right now. They picked up Dontrell Edmond this past week, I believe.
I saw that, and I think it's at this point like he has enough time.
Honestly, we need to give Sims more targets if he doesn't have to worry about Harmon at all.
Yeah,
he's going to have to go up quite a bit.
15, 16?
Yeah, 15. I don't think we can give any more to Gandy Golden. He's a rookie. He's a prospect, is to put it mildly. So it comes down, do you want Inman, Trey Quinn? Does Trey Quinn play in the slot, moving McLaurin outside now?
I don't know. Trey Quinn, he was heavily involved until the injury last year.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I would say we put Trey Quinn in. I think that's a better chance than Inman.
Yeah, and then there's Joey says Thaddeus Moss, and I just wish he wasn't an undrafted free agent. Yeah. Like so many of these tight ends, there was a bunch of them. It was Thaddeus Moss, Harrison and Hunter Bryant, Albert O, Troutman, and then Bryson Hopkins. Those are guys based on combine results and college production that I kind of liked. At their price, in rookie drafts. But then how many of them, one, got drafted, but two, got drafted with decent draft capital? And now my list, I think, for the most part, is Troutman and Hopkins. That's kind of like that's yeah. I think I got to add Trey Quinn. I think we'll revisit this.
Yep.
It's a lot of projection talk here, Mitch. And Joey's been here the whole time.
Yeah, he's been the 13 member. We should add him to the name.
Well, Joey, we'll add you to the projection sheet here. So that pretty much wraps it up. But like I said, anybody that's been in the chat, watching live, going back on YouTube, this is not going to hit our typical podcast feed, but we appreciate everybody tuning in. If you have any questions or comments or concerns, let us know what you think we just royally messed up, or if there's anything, hey, I like this. So just tweet at us. We're always available. Mitch, I'm going to make you give a final thought here without the, you know what? No, hold on. Let me scroll over here. I'm giving you the final thought here.
Final thoughts.
Dude, I just want to say thanks to Joey and Swirly and everyone that stuck around this whole time. This was awesome. I actually didn't think anyone would want to listen to us just talk about spreadsheets for 3.5 hours. But yeah, it was.
You and I, we've been on for 3.5, but yeah, we went live.
We'll see how my wife feels when I go upstairs about this. But I really thank you guys for coming on. It's really nice to hear the banter back and forth, and we appreciate it. I'll get John to send you that Galladay jersey just because of it.
No,
it's not my jersey.
Yeah, but next week we are going live on YouTube on Monday.
Yes, it's Monday. Yep.
For our Mike Clay show. Mike Clay is coming on. He did say, Mitch, that he's been without power for a while.
Oh, yeah. So
he said he has to catch up on stuff, so he'd like to keep it short. But I told him if he wants to reschedule, there's no issue there.
Yeah, of course.
And then we're going on the 17th with 17th with
I don't remember.
Or 18th, one of those days with
it's like Friday night or Saturday night.
No, 17th, because it just switched over to the 7th with Samantha Holt from is it Fantasy Focus? I did a guest spot with her, and she was really good. So we're looking forward to that. And then you guys are stuck with just Mitch, Dan, and myself for a few episodes before I go on vacation. But yeah, so again, if you haven't tuned in to our typical show, it's nothing like this. It's much more organized, and the flow is much better.
Yeah.
And
we yell even more.
Yeah. All right. Well, so that wraps it up for us. Hopefully everybody has a great night, and thank you for tuning in.